How's my Justice Warriors? It's Saturday night. It is about 8:15 and I've got the wax on my teeth. I know it can be a little harder to understand me, and I apologize for that, but I kind of have to have it on or it just hurts too much having all this wax in my teeth. So let's just get rolling. Oh, wait, I'm not even plugged in. Hey, Fred, can you hear me okay? Maybe I should plug in. And then you can tell me if that makes it any better or worse. There. Is that any better? Is that any worse? Can you tell a difference? How are you? Here for a bit. Sunday and Monday are my weekend. Oh, lovely. So have you been paying attention to the news? I thought it was all fake at first. Granny Annie, hello, my dear. How are you? Sorry I'm late. What do you guys think? The whole Bubba thing? I seriously thought it was fake news at first. Like I wasn't even going to pay any attention to it. Wow. I just don't even know what to say. So let's just get into the book. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All of my videos are made for the tube of you. It's an infotainment platform. In particular, I am wanting to have a discussion and be educational in my efforts to stay within the parameters of fair use in reading this amazing book to you guys. So I recommend purchasing it. There's a lot in it. There's photographs in it. And let's just get right back on it. Make sure that you're still subscribed if you are subscribed. And if you're not, please consider doing so. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like the channel. Turn on your notification bell to ring and hit that thumbs up button. It was so nice here today, you guys. It was like, dang, it is crazy talking. Bubba's story. Oh, are you not familiar? Don't Google it. Apparently, our president did some oral copulation on a previous president, Clinton, allegedly. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff out there about it. Like I said, at first I thought it had to be fake news. I'm just like, what? Billy, darling, how are you? Hey, Donnie and Bubba sitting in a tree. OMG. I'm going to see if I can make this a little thinner, and then hopefully I won't be speaking quite as funny. Sorry while I play with my teeth. How's it going, girl? Can you believe it? It puts that whole Arnie Palmer thing in a whole new light. Remember Granny Annie? When he was speaking about how well hung Arnie Palmer was on the campaign trail? It is wild. I know. It is crazy. So it kind of lets you know why he doesn't want those damn files out, huh? He is obsessed with peens. I wish he would just come out of the closet and not be abusing other females then, right? I mean, if he's bi, then fine, that's his own business. But I've thought for a long time that he was gay and repressing it and taking it out on the world, you know. That's what I think happens with a lot of these people. It's like, just embrace yourself, accept yourself, who you are, how you are, and get on with it, right? But yeah, I mean, the homophobia literally is the first sign, the first indication that you're homosexual. All right. I've always believed that my whole life. Because it's like, why are you strung out about someone else's preference? Like, what's it to you? Unless, of course, if it's kids, then it should be everybody's business because it's all of our responsibility to protect our children. It takes a village, right? And then you got freaking Megan R. Kelly. You guys hear her talking about, well, 15, 17. It's not like they're 5 or 8, like whatever. Damn. Yeah, she is so gross. She is absolutely disgusting. Like there's something wrong with her. Laura Ingram's can be pretty bad too, although at times she can be reasonable. But apparently she's a heavy drinker. Laura Ingram's is, and it makes me wonder if maybe Megan Kelly is too. That might explain some of the insanity. Okay, let's try this again. Chapter 27, Point of No Return. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. Picture a family of 5 mugging for a camera in their annual Christmas portrait. We're in the last 100 pages. I can't believe it. Every December since their first child was born, mom has gotten dad to take their whole brood to the local shopping mall to wait in line for a photograph with Santa Claus. Until Megan's daughters are recruited. Oh, does she even have daughters? I know. It's just hideous. I mean, and it's so like 1950s. I mean, it's bad enough if you think of a guy being 21 and I think that there's like a technicality that there needs to be more than a 4-year age difference if the guy's 21 and the girl is 18, but if she's 17 or 16, not okay. I think legally. I mean, I'm not sure. I know that there's a little bit of gray fuzzy area, but these teenage girls, kids that were abused by men that were 50 and 60 and 70. I mean, not to be mean, but you barely want to sleep with a guy that's 50, 60, or 70, even if you're that same age, right? I mean, come on. I'm, I'm kind of kidding, not kidding, but certainly, like as a teenager, even a guy in his late 20s, it's just different. Like, yeah, no, 21, that's all right, I think, when you're in your late teens. But anyway, not to be like Megan Kelly, right? I mean, it's like, why are we even having this discussion? We're talking about statutory and we're talking about people in positions of power using their money and their power to abuse people. Like, that's it. That's the end of discussion. Because in that setting, it doesn't even matter if these women are over 21, in my opinion. I don't know if she has any kids, just saying it's all okay until it hits home. Right. Or like her when she was 15, let her get statutoried by old men and see how much she feels like it's okay then, right? I mean, that's absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And I'm sorry to even suggest such a thing like what I just said. I mean, I shouldn't even talk like that. It's just like, why are we even having this Megan R. Kelly discussion? The discussion that she's having, not the discussion that we're having. We're trying to put an end to it, right? My kid's dad got statutory rape and in jail 6 months. My sweet son too. Sweet son, it was her third perpetrator. He was embarrassed and good ever since. But see, how old was your son? I mean, was he like 21? Or, I mean, anyway, if you want to share. Um, Mom has gotten Dad to take their whole brood to the local shopping mall to wait in line for a photograph with Santa Claus. Even in years that money was tight, Mom saved to pay for this image, insisting it was worth every penny. Now, though, her two sons and one daughter are older. No one believes in Santa anymore, so everyone, including Dad, grumbles when asked to pose each year with a chubby, bearded man in a red suit and hat. Still, Mom won't relent. She's willing to die on this holiday hill. My son's victim was a few months from 18. I told my son, go home and break up with your girlfriend. My parents, like you, they'd never press charges. My parents, like you, they'd never press charges. So she was almost 18. And how old was your son, if you want to share, Annie? And was he like buying her expensive jewelry and giving her cash after each date? I mean, duh. Gross. Um, I'm not saying your son's gross. I'm saying that your son was probably closer to that age range, right? Or you probably wouldn't be sharing. Anyway, you'll thank me for this later, I say. It's important. I tell my family to revel in life's most joyous moments. Call them silly rituals all you want. I say, but we must preserve happy memories because there will be times ahead when we will need them. Happy memories can keep a person going. I know this better than most because I had so few of them. Aw. Son 22, eighth grade education, feels like borderline girl, but he did it. See, like, but, and that's a 4-year age difference, the 18 and 22. So, like I said, I think that there's some wiggle room in there. I think that's like the criteria. Um, yeah. The house Robbie and I rented in Penrose, Colorado, sat on 5 acres of flat, dusty farmland. To get there, you turned off J Street and drove down a curved dirt road that led only to our front door, which was white with a large oval leaded window that afforded a glimpse into our small entryway. When we moved in, I thought the see-through door had a certain country charm, but the main reason we picked it was that my mom and her husband Stan lived close by. Suddenly, I was spending more time with Mom than I had since my childhood. For more than a dozen years, she and I lived 8,000 miles apart. Now we were neighbors. It meant the world to me that she was finally getting to spend time with her grandchildren, ages 8, 7, and 4. When she visited us, she doted on them, especially when she played with Ellie. I remembered what Mom had been like with me when I was small. My mother could be so loving. It was good to see that again. Actually, my son, most eligible, handsome kid at church, after the deed, he said she threw her hands in the air and said, I got the dude, take me home. That's hilarious. I win. Did I read that last sentence? I think I did. My mother could be so loving. It was good to see her again. The other day, I saw an Instagram video on one of my favorite singer songwriters, Pink, on the Today Show, promoting her new album, Trustfall. I said album Trustfall. I can never say that word right. Describing the difficult relationship she'd had with her own mother and how they'd tried to reconcile. Pink said, love is a lifetime of coming back to the table. Boy, does that resonate with me. By moving to Penrose, I had come back to the table where my mother had been sitting for years. She was not exactly the same woman I'd grown up with, although a part of her always would be. When I was a teen, she'd keep me at a distance. Now she wanted to be part of my life. I got to take a little bit of this wax off, I think. It's just a little thick and it's making me have quite a lisp. Uh-huh. I've never had a lisp in my life. I don't mind it. It's just I don't want to bug you guys with it, but I also don't want to bug you by playing with the wax in my teeth. So give me a minute. Um, she was not interested in a relationship. One of Dad's friends was her first case. Him 42, her 15. I think he got 20 or more years. Number two was a boyfriend. Ugh. Again, that's like that movie American Beauty, Granny Annie. I was so creeped out by that movie. I was so creeped out. And then we found out that Kevin Spacey was a creep, and he's in the E-Files. He's in the Trumpstein files, huh? But yeah, I don't know what's true about these people, like Harvey Weinstein, ugh, Larry Nasser, R. Kelly, P. Diddy. I think that's going to help a lot. Just the tiniest smidge of wax. It's better for me anyway. I don't know if I don't sound different to you guys. Mom proved to be an inexperienced babysitter. The single time she offered, it lasted just 20 minutes until Tyler somehow got his finger stuck in the trigger of a plastic Nerf gun, and she called me begging me to come back. But I wasn't eager to leave my kids alone with her anyway. And yet I was comforted knowing that she was close by. I didn't want to give the false impression that we somehow resolved all of our past disputes during this period. When I told her, for example, a few of the names of the men I'd been transported to by E, she repeated what she'd said to me before, that she didn't want to hear about any of my past abuse. Oh, what a bitch. I'll just say it. Tom Hanks was the shocking one to me. Yeah, I haven't heard that one, Annie. Where did you get that information? I mean, I've heard things about him, but are you talking about in the E-Files, in the Trumpstein files? Let's see. What a horrible mother to say that. Uh, she didn't want to hear about any of my past abuse. It made her too upset. My mother definitely doesn't believe in talking things out. Nonetheless, a girl needs her mom, and I'd gone without mine for a long time. I was feeling more attached to her than I had in forever, a feeling that was only intensified when scary things started happening, things Robbie and I couldn't explain. I think I know where this is going. Since my joinder motion had been filed in the CVRA case, we had come home more than once to find evidence that strangers had been inside our house. Yeah, they do that just to mess with you, like rearrange things and stuff like that. Robbie was vigilant about placing wooden drop bars in the sliding windows and doors to prevent them from being opened. And he always deadbolted all of our locks. Nonetheless, it was becoming routine for us to return home to find the deadbolts unlocked. One afternoon, we came back from a trip to Walmart and discovered the front door wide open. Our Malamute bear who we'd left inside was out in the street. We called the sheriff's department, and when we told the deputies, who responded that nothing had been stolen. And when we told the deputies, who responded that nothing had been stolen, they speculated that the intruders might have entered in order to install some sort of spyware on our computers. They recommended that deputies place surveillance cameras outside to record the make and model of every vehicle that drove up our driveway. Of course, we said yes, and soon they'd rigged an elaborate system aiming every which way. They also suggested that we obtain a means of self defense. And so we headed to Warrior Kit, a law enforcement supplies store about 20 miles from our house in West Pueblo. We bought 2 guns and a gun safe to keep them in, a 5-shot revolver known as the Judge for me, and a 9mm handgun for Robbie. For months after that, we were regulars at the shooting range in Warrior Kit's basement. Both Robbie and I wanted to feel confident that if the time came, we'd know how to defend our family. Oh, that he likes young boys. I may be off. We were saturated during Me Too. Well, right, and that's what I thought about Kevin Spacey was the young boys. But you're saying that about Tom Hanks. Frats do that to quitters to remind them they swore to secrecy. Huh. Well, and Virginia was sworn to secrecy, you know. And then when she took settlement money, that also swore her to secrecy. I mean, I'm not saying that she was wrong to file a lawsuit at all. I think that the secrecy is not okay. You know, it's an issue of public safety and her safety, both. Both Robbie and I wanted to feel confident. If the time came, we'd know how to defend our family. Paparazzi followed us everywhere in and around Penrose. Once I walked out our front door and smacked right into one of them. He asked me a question. I declined to comment, and he took my picture. Soon that photo of me with a beige coat, a black scarf, and a knit beanie on my head was ricocheting around the world with a caption that said I was hiding out in Colorado. On another occasion, when the kids were sick, paparazzi snapped images of me leading them out of a doctor's office. I wanted to scream, "Get away from my family, you pricks. Leave my bloody kids out of it." Even in my imagination, I swear like a true Australian. But instead of letting loose like that, I just hustled my children to the car. All this was more than intrusive. It was dangerous. I got run off the road once by what I presumed were tabloid journalists. I sat in that locked car on the side of the road, shielding my face and trying not to panic until they finally left me alone. We were chased so often that Robbie became adept at turning down side streets at the last moment, pulling speedy U-turns and driving more like we were in a war than in a rural hamlet. This was crazy making. I would scream at Robbie to slow down. He would scream at me that the US was ridiculous and lawless. I would yell that the paparazzi existed everywhere on earth. He would yell that maybe it was time to put our family's welfare ahead of my desire to seek justice. I would fume. He would slam his foot down harder on the gas pedal. At times, it felt like we were skirting the outer limits of our sanity. That is crazy, isn't it? Glad they told them beware of bugs. I know. Like that's some good cops, right? Elite making their promises kept. In April of 2015, 2 important things happened, both of them frustrating. On the 7th, Judge Kenneth Mara The judge presiding over the CVRA case ruled that I could not join as Jane Doe because my filing was duplicative of the existing lawsuit. Moreover, Mara ruled that my allegations about the former prince and others should be struck from the record. At this juncture in the proceedings, these lurid details are unnecessary, Mara wrote. While he made no ruling about the veracity of my allegations, Mara said that the factual details regarding with whom and where I had been forced to have sex with were immaterial and impertinent. However, he noted that I might yet appear as a witness in the case. Brad and I released a statement that said my legal team absolutely respected the judge's ruling. I'm happy to get to participate in this important case, the statement quoted me as saying, but I was disappointed. That disappointment evaporated, though, when Brad and Siggy brought me good news. For months, they'd been putting out feelers to all the major TV networks, gauging whether they wanted to interview me. Everyone had said yes. I was finally going to tell my own story to a news organization that was held in high esteem. We weighed our options, and in the end, we chose ABC. I was a fan of the anchor Amy Rohrbeck. I was a fan of hers too. I can't picture her face right now, but yeah, I know the name. Should we look her up real quick? Amy Rohrbeck, just because I'll forget to otherwise if I don't do it now. Amy, how do you spell that last name? Robachh. Oh, yeah, she's gorgeous. And she's 52. It's been a long time since I've seen her face, though. She's not on that much anymore. Let's see. Where's a good picture to show you guys to see if you recognize her? A good headshot. I mean, there's a lot of good pictures of her here, but just trying to find the best one. I think this is probably the best one to recognize her. And then my phone is like playing a little trick with it. Don't do that, phone. There we go. And sorry for the glare. Just in case you recognize her, Amy Rohrbeck. Anyway, not that important. I'm just curious. Always curious, right? Her producer, Jim Hill, was a top-notch investigative reporter. When the interview date was set, Robbie and I decided he would stay in Colorado and the kids would come with me. I wanted them to understand why mommy was always either on the phone or too often leaving on a plane. The four of us flew to New York City from Denver, and the next day, ABC hired 2 nannies to take Alex, Tyler, and Ellie to the Central Park Zoo while I got prepped in a suite at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel on Central Park South. Sitting in that elegant room, getting wired with a microphone, I was so excited. This could be a game changer, I thought. I was eager to talk about how the U.S. government had looked the other way when it came to E and G's crimes. I wanted to describe the anger and betrayal I felt, and that all of E and G's victims, after years of seeing the media as my enemy. One second. Let me see what that didn't read right. Did I skip a page or something? The anger and betrayal I felt, and that all of E and G's victims felt. After years of seeing the media as my enemy, I wanted to believe that the media could also help our cause. Roback and I took our seats and the interview began. I felt immediately at ease. Roback was prepared, and her tone signaled to me that she was after the truth. This is a story about a guy who's still walking around New York City, free as a bird, who's done all these atrocious things to me and to so many, I remember telling her. And we've never gotten any kind of justice. Roback asked, what about the fact that E had admitted that he'd procured girls for prostitution in Florida? I don't count that as justice, I said. I don't think labeling those minor girls prostitutes and then him getting only 13 months in jail, with him leaving the jail every day, is justice. Do you? For probably 90 minutes, I told Roback everything I knew about how ENG had organized their SMEX transporting ring. I told her the names of several men I'd been transported to. I wept a few times when she asked me to go into detail about particular incidences of abuse, but that was okay. I felt as if I spoke from the heart. Yeah, I'm totally comfortable with like breaking down in tears on camera or in front of people, and then I kind of get over it quickly. I bounce back quickly. One sec. Usually, anyway. But I think sometimes other people are uncomfortable with me having tears, but it doesn't bother me very much. I mean, maybe a little bit. But I think it's good. I think it's good for people to know. Granny Annie says, yes, pretty lady. Oh, yeah, that Amy Rohrbach. She's gorgeous. Absolutely. When the interview concluded, there was a celebratory feeling in the room. People from the network told Brad and Siggy it had gone great. A segment from the interview, I don't think that they aired it though. We'll get to that. Just to give you a warning, because it's a big letdown. I think that that's where this is. A segment from the interview would air on Good Morning America, we were told, and then the rest would appear on one of the network's longer format shows. I felt relieved and proud when I reunited with my kids that night. I told them, your mom did a good job today. But then the waiting began. We were strung along for weeks with no explanation for the delay. Finally, someone from the network told my legal team that because I'd told Rohrbach about being transported to the former prince, the network had to reach out to Buckingham Palace and an attorney for E. Why that was causing such delays was unclear. Rohrbach and her producer were outraged, but for whatever reason, ABC never aired the interview. 4 years later, on November 5th, 2019, a video of Amy Rohrbach speaking on a hot mic was made public that shed a little bit more light on what had happened. Rohrbach said that every day I get more and more pissed that her interview with me didn't air and that what we had was unreal. In the recording, Rohrbach said that she was told by higher ups, who's J.E.? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. She also said E's lawyers and the British royal family had applied pressure to nix the interview, suggesting that the network caved because it feared losing access to Prince William and Kate Middleton in the future. Isn't that frustrating? I wonder if it's possible to see it like on YouTube or anything now. I'd been defeated once again about the people I was trying to speak out against. Sorry, that was cranberry juice, so it's a little tart. I don't want to do like the lemon face. But it feels like I do want to, as much as I like cranberry juice. And I couldn't help but wonder if a media giant like ABC could be shut down in its attempts to reveal the truth, then was there any hope for survivors like me? Chapter 28, Always My Daughter. In July 2015, Robbie and I decided it was time to return to Australia. Robbie's elderly father, who already had prostate cancer, had now been diagnosed with asbestos. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, asbestos. I know that's how you say asbestos, but this might be a word, asbestosis. It has an IS at the end. Asbestosis. I've never heard that. Of course, I've heard asbestos. I just hadn't heard the asbestosis. That's it's always good to learn something, right? Every day. And again, I've read this before, but my eyes skipped right over it. I just read it as asbestos. When you read out loud, it hits you different. Between that and the unease we'd been feeling since the first break in, we no longer felt comfortable in Colorado. This wasn't an easy call for me. I'd had a lot invested in the idea that being in the US would let me mend some relationships in my family. I'd made some progress, especially with my brothers, but I had also lost some ground. That feeling of loss, plus the fact that my work with Brad and Siggy was far from done, made me reluctant to leave. But any desire I had to stay in America was outweighed by how unhappy I knew Robbie was. While he wanted to work increasingly, he didn't feel like he could while still keeping our family safe. It was hard for a proud man like Robbie not to provide for his family. But he and I both had become, I was going to say paranoid, but that's not right. Paranoia is an irrational feeling that people are out to get you. Based on what we'd been through, it was perfectly rational for us to believe that our family was in danger. So in July 2015, Robbie flew home to Australia. And the plan was that we'd resettle 1,500 miles north of Sydney, near the city of Cairns. Robbie had a friend there who said job prospects were good, and we hoped Cairns' remote location would afford us more privacy. Robbie would get things set up for us, finding work and a place to live, while I stayed behind with the kids to pack up and resolve a few loose ends. The truth was that Siggy and I had several things to accomplish before it made sense for me to head back down under, which was fine by me because the more I got to know Siggy, the more I respected her. Raised by a single mom who worked 3 jobs to support her 3 daughters, Siggy had been ambitious and determined practically since birth. I'm doing sauerkraut face. That's funny. I don't eat sauerkraut, so I don't really know what it tastes like because it just looks and smells so disgusting. I know it's supposed to be good for you, and I know some people love it. Not my cup of tea. Though we were just 11 years apart in age, I looked up to her. I soon learned that she'd faced personal challenges. She'd struggled with infertility before finding a doctor who helped her and her husband have the 4 kids she calls IVF miracles. At work, meanwhile, her intellect was matched only by her compassion. Siggy told me she'd felt she'd been preparing her whole career for a case like mine. Life takes you to places for a reason, Virginia, she said, recalling the years she'd spent volunteering in a domestic violence shelter. All that positioned me perfectly to hear your story and take on your case, the most important of my career. As I'd done with Brad, I worked closely with Siggy to meticulously study photographs of men who were known to be E's associates. And we confirmed several more men I remembered being transported to. Some of their identities shocked me, if only because they represented such a broad swath of power and influence. I remembered each of these men's faces as if it were the day they abused me. As much as I might wish to, I could never forget them. One of these men would pass away around this time. It was unclear what, if any, legal action we might take against the rest. But identifying them, even if only to myself, had a redemptive power. These were well known, sophisticated, wealthy men, men who enjoyed a certain cachet in their respective fields. With every name I uncovered, I appreciated more fully something had sensed as a teenager. Had any of us girls reported being transported when we were first abused, it was unlikely that anyone would have listened. I wondered if anyone would listen now. Siggy, meanwhile, had been studying up on defamation, an area of the law that was evolving in the wake of the Me Too movement. As victims who'd long been silent spoke up. In response, more and more alleged perpetrators were suing their accusers, claiming they'd been defamed. But Siggy believed she'd found a different way for me to challenge G. Specifically, when G's publicist issued a statement in January of 2015 that called me a liar, Siggy believed G had defamed me. And she thought not only that she could prove it, but that such an action would allow us to describe the abuse I'd suffered without being hamstrung by the statute of limitations, which prevented me from bringing a criminal case against Maxwell. Siggy explained that when accused persons deny allegations against them, that does not necessarily mean that they can be successful in a defamation suit. Not if it is the mere denial. But G was somebody who um, actually abused you and then called you a liar, she said. That denial is different because it is in the context of a actual abuse case. SA. I'll just say SA. It's hard sometimes to figure out how to make the word more YouTube friendly. Now the public can assume G has information that others don't know about you. That's the key, that G called me a liar based on facts that she knew but that were undisclosed. In other words, her statement implied an assertion of fact. So we are going to say that was defamatory and that you have a right to defend yourself, Siggy said. We will sue her for defamation, and in order to establish the defamation, we will have to get into the details surrounding the essay. Have I mentioned that Siggy was a superhero? Well, here was more proof of why. In September 2015, Siggy filed my claim against G in Manhattan federal court. It said G had made a deliberate effort to maliciously discredit me and to silence my efforts to expose SMEX crimes committed around the world by her, E, and other powerful people. It said G's denials had damaged my credibility and reiterated that with the assistance of G, E was able to sexually abuse Gouffre for years until Gouffre eventually escaped. But my favorite line in my suit explained why I was suing in the first place. Ultimately, as a mother and one of E's many victims, Gouffre believed that she should speak out about her essay experiences in hopes of helping others. I wanted the world to know that becoming a mother, particularly the mother of a daughter, had fueled my determination to act. Late one night in Colorado, after Robbie had returned to Australia, I was folding laundry when I saw headlights on our long, winding driveway. As I've said, we lived on a big lot way off the main road. There was no reason to drive down our gravel driveway unless you were visiting us. I wasn't expecting anyone, so the headlights put me on high alert. The car approached slowly, then stopped. I watched for some movement, but the driver stayed put in the driver's seat, idling with high beams trained on our see through front door. Later, I would learn that other victims had experienced exactly this kind of intimidation, bright lights aimed at their windows at night. But while I was ignorant, it's like another violation, just like the essay. Um, but while I was ignorant of that then, I still knew with certainty that my family was in peril. Moving quickly through the house, I scooped a sleeping Ellie out of her bed and gently placed her on the floor of my closet. Then I woke up Alex and Tyler and led them into the closet too. They were rubbing their eyes confused as I grabbed the laundry I'd been folding and threw it on top of them, trying to hide them from view. I need you to be quiet, I whispered as my sons' faces peeked out from the pile. I'm going to mostly close this door so you'll be safe, but don't be scared, I said, trying not to sound frightened myself. Mom is going to take care of this. Turning back toward the front door, I went and got the judge out of the gun safe and loaded it. Then I grabbed a hold of Bear, our Malamute, because he looked scary, even though he wouldn't hurt a fly. Slowly, Bear and I approached the front door, which was lit up like a movie set by the headlights. I had the gun in one hand and Bear's collar in the other. I'm sure the intruders could see us through the leaded glass window, but to make sure, I opened the door just a bit, waving the gun into the blinding high beams. Then I closed the door and stood there, gun cocked, ready. For 5 minutes, we faced off like that, the car idling, me gripping the gun, Bear panting next to me. Finally, after what seemed like forever, the driver put the car in reverse and slowly backed up and then headed off into the darkness. Is that so crazy? That's when I realized I should have already called the sheriff. Yeah, dang it. Forgot. But had she taken that moment to call the sheriff, it could have all gone differently and it could have gone south before they got there, right? I mean, she was a survivor, man. She knew how to keep herself and her kids safe. So after sticking my head into the closet to reassure the boys, I did. Within a few minutes, two sheriff's deputies arrived. Oh, okay. I'd read that weird. So after sticking my head into the closet to reassure the boys, I did. Within minutes, two sheriff deputies arrived. No, I told them I didn't see a license plate. No, I wasn't sure of the make and model of the car. And the sheriff's department had already removed their cameras in anticipation of our move. So we couldn't check any surveillance tapes. Doesn't that suck? Don't be scared, OMG. I know, I know. I mean, the kids probably weren't that scared because they were like asleep and they're just like, oh, kind of fun to hide in the closet under a pile of clothes, maybe. I don't know. I mean, maybe they just fell back to sleep. Thank goodness they were okay. The deputies promised to stay in their cruiser outside our house until daybreak. I thanked them, then returned the kids to their beds. Ellie had slept through the whole thing, but it took me a while to get the boys back down. Who was in the car? They asked, the first of so many questions whose answers I didn't know. What did they want? Why didn't they say anything? Finally, Alex and Tyler wore themselves out and fell asleep. Not me, though. I didn't close my eyes at all that night or on many of the nights thereafter. I knew this wasn't a good idea, especially with small kids in the house. But after that, I went to bed each night with my loaded revolver on the nightstand next to me. Well, hell yeah. How far would these people take it? I asked Robbie when he called to check in. He couldn't stand to speculate, saying only, I want you out of there, Jenna. I want you out of there right now. I'd arrived in the US hoping that we could start a new life here. But now, less than 2 years later, I agreed with Robbie. We couldn't get back to Australia fast enough. Mom helped me pack the irreplaceable stuff, a ceramic parrot Tyler had made in the first grade, as well as other mementos and keepsakes to take back to Australia. On one of our last days in Colorado, Mom and I were boxing up a few last items in one of the kids' rooms when I heard her say my name. I looked up from the suitcase I was trying to close and saw her holding a rectangular needlepoint pillow. My mom gave me this, and now I want you to have it, Mom said, smoothing the pillow's crimson velvet piping before offering it to me. The face of the pillow had a tiny border, cross stitch, red flowers, and green leaves that encircled these words in all capital letters. Always my daughter, now to my friend. That is what I want for us, she said. Her eyes were wet. In that moment, I thought, this is probably the closest to an apology I'm ever going to get. And I was okay with that. Sitting on the floor of our Colorado rental, I had done enough healing and maturing to see Mom more clearly, the woman she was, but also the overwhelmed young mother of three that she once had been. I think it's important to know where you came from. For better or for worse, the people who made you will always be a part of who you are. I knew that I couldn't ever rely on either of my parents and that I could never change them. They were both too broken, but I also saw that part of mom wished she could become someone better, a person capable of being there for me. I'd like to say Australia welcomed us with open arms in October of 2015, but we had a difficult reentry. The house Robbie had rented for us in Palm Cove, about 25 miles north of Cairns, was fine, but he'd not had time to make it a home. We had a TV and a microwave, but no furniture or bedding, and we couldn't afford to go shopping. Robbie had found a job working security at a resort, but still, after we bought a used car and paid the deposit on the rental, money was tight. Those first couple of nights, we all slept on the floor. At the end of the year, Robbie scored a better security job at a hospital. With bankruptcy no longer imminent, we both started to breathe a little easier. For years now, my increasing activism had created a push pull between us that at times had taken Robbie and my marriage to the brink. While we both agreed on the principle that had driven me to become a more public figure, the assholes shouldn't be allowed to win. The fact was that my refusal to stay silent, while honorable, had real consequences for our family. I think that's an understatement of the century, huh? At least now, I told myself, we were back in Robbie's country where he felt more at ease. To the extent that there were more consequences looming ahead, at least my husband would be standing strong on his own turf as he helped me to meet them. Chapter 29, I solemnly swear. For me, 2016 would be the year of the deposition. As part of my defamation case against G, my lawyers would depose her twice in 2016, and her lawyers would depose me twice, both times in Denver. Also in 2016, many people I'd known when I was in E's orbit would be deposed. My mother, my father, my former boyfriends, Michael and Tony, another E survivor, Johanna Soderborg. It's a French name, Sjoberg. I think that's French. Excuse me. John Juan Alisi, E's house manager in Palm Beach, and of course, E himself. Of all these people, E alone invoked the fifth, refusing to answer so as not to incriminate himself. What is it like to be deposed? Yeah, who all's been deposed? Granny, Annie, you've probably been deposed, right? I have. It's not fun. No matter the subject matter, it is grueling. As you can imagine, when the questioning revolves around years old SA, it is especially painful. During one deposition, I would become so agitated that when we took a brief break, I went to the restroom and vomited. In that same deposition, I would also flinch as a lawyer flung photos of my children on the table in front of me, as close to a mafia style intimidation tactic as I'd ever seen. The lawyer claimed to be making a point about my use of Facebook and about how I couldn't be in fear for my life, as I'd claimed, if I posted pictures of my kids there. But I only saw the but I saw only malevolence. Malevolence. I said that right, didn't I? But I only saw malevolence. Maybe it's because the lawyer's behavior brought E to mind. The memory of him tossing that photo of Skydee on his desk, telling me never to go to the police, and had never left me. I interpreted this brazen display of my baby's faces as a direct threat. Please don't hear this as a plea for sympathy. No one ever promised me that challenging my abusers would be easy. I had chosen to take these vile people on, and I'd always known that would mean an uphill fight. I was still talking to my psychologist Judith Lightfoot, every Monday on the phone. In addition to recommending meditation and breathing exercises, she encouraged me to speak out, saying she thought the more vocal I became, the stronger I would feel. Yes, deposed about my friend that died on my beach, Solmar, next to Divorce Beach. Judge was paid off, in my opinion. Was that Mexico then? Is there really a divorce beach? That's hilarious. Still, this would be a hugely tiring year. Part of that was logistical. Between depositions I gave and depositions I witnessed, I traveled from Australia to the US and back 4 times in 2016. Robbie's parents were living with us, which was the only way my absences were possible. Nano ferried the kids to and from school, and Nona cooked and kept the house tidy while Robbie did his shifts at the hospital. But what really wore me out were the emotions all this stirred up. In her deposition, which I did not attend, my mother was asked why I'd stopped working at Mar-a-Lago. She said she didn't know anything about it, but that my father had told her that I was being educated by G, whom mom described as my new mama. In his deposition, my father said that when he met E at El Brillo Way, the PDF file seemed just fine to me. I mean, you can't tell people by looking at them. But then dad added that he didn't like my then boyfriend, Michael. Of course, what parent cares for her daughter's boyfriend? I didn't think anyone was good enough for my daughter, but that's just me. Both of my parents' testimony revealed that, as usual, they were driven by a desire to protect themselves. This wasn't news, but it was still painful for me to read. Soderbergh's deposition transcript was easier to digest because she confirmed what I had experienced. Soberg described how G approached her on the main campus of Palm Beach Atlantic University, where she was a 21-year-old student. G said she was looking to hire someone for $20 an hour to answer phones, get drinks, and help around the house. She compared the job to that of a butler, but said butlers were too stuffy. Soberg accompanied G to E's mansion and did as she asked, but the next time G asked her to come, Soberg was told she would be making $100 an hour rubbing feet. Soberg, who has said her relationship with E was platonic at first, but later he pressured her into having Smex, also traveled to Little St. James. She remembered her and me massaging E together on the beach there, and she recalled the night in E's Manhattan townhouse when G gave the former prince the puppet that resembled him and then put the puppet's hand on my breast. Did G ever share with you whether it bothered her that E had so many girls around? Siggy asked Schoberg. No, Schoberg replied. Actually, the opposite. She let me know that she would not be able to please him as much as he needed, and that this is why there were other girls around. Soberg also confirmed that G always said she wasn't bothered by how many girls E slept with. And she described how E once requested that she bring a friend of hers, a physical trainer, to his house. When the friend of Soberg's arrived, E asked the women, "You see that girl?" This is terrible, trigger warning. "You see that girl over there laying by the pool? I just took her virginity." Vomit. Soberg said her friend was mortified by E's lecherous boasting. But me, when I read this account, all I could think was, yep, that's E to a T. I couldn't attend all the depositions. I'd been away from the kids enough as it was. But there was one deposition that I knew I needed to be there for. Tony Figueroa's, I can't even say that name, Figueroa's. I hadn't spoken to Tony ever since I was in Thailand, so I wasn't sure what he'd say. He knew so much that could confirm what I'd been through, but I knew Tony was upset by my disappearance from his life 14 years before. The deposition had been scheduled by G's lawyers. Why would they seek out Tony? My lawyers wondered, unless they thought he'd give testimony that would help their client and hurt me. Brad had a preliminary call with Tony, who gave him an earful. Tony said I ditched him, embarrassed him, and left him in an apartment whose rent he couldn't afford. When Brad told Tony all we needed was for him to tell the truth, Tony replied, I'm not doing shit until I talk to Virginia. I need some explanation about why she effed me over. So 2 days before his deposition, I dialed Tony's number. When he answered, I told him I was sorry for the way our relationship had ended in '02, but also for causing him to be dragged into this mess in 2016. I knew he was just trying to live life, I said, and I understood it was no fun to rehash our difficult history because we'd once tried to break free together to make a life outside E's orbit. When I escaped on my own, I knew Tony felt abandoned. On the phone, I acknowledged that we'd been kids together. I said I didn't want to cause him pain, not then and not now. 48 hours later, Brad and I headed to a Florida law office for the deposition. Tony and I said hello in the hallway, but he was nervous and looked away. I wasn't sure how this was going to go. I needn't have worried, though. Under questioning from G's lawyer, Tony recalled that while we were living together, I traveled with E 2 weeks per month or so. He'd confirmed that I told him I was forced to have sex with E, G, and their friends. He remembered me talking about being forced to recruit other girls and about Smex toys with E and G that they like to use on us victims. Tony recalled that when he and I tried to leave E behind, I relished the freedom. Like she did not want to go back there, he said. Asked what I was trying to get away from, he said to stop being used and abused. Tony remembered me saying I'd been forced to have sex with the former prince, and he described worrying about my safety while I was in London. When asked why, he responded, just the way she was talking to me, like she sounded scared. He recalled that when I returned from that trip, he saw the photograph of the former prince with his arm around me. And he remembered that after I escaped, G called him and asked if he could find any other girls for E. Wow. She just said, Hi, this is G. E was wondering if you had anybody that could come over, Tony said. What a weirdo. Desperate. But the most poignant part of the deposition for me was when G's attorney asked Tony if we'd seen each other since I'd told him goodbye in '02. Nope, he said. His face looked truly sad. It didn't feel real, he said, that I was sitting across the table from him. It's like talking to a ghost or seeing one, he said. Later, Brad said he thought Tony simply needed to see me to put our unresolved breakup behind him. I hoped Brad was right. The most important person my lawyers needed to question under oath, of course, was G herself. A first deposition was scheduled, but would it happen? G had avoided being deposed before. In 2010, for example, Brad had served G with a subpoena related to his CVRA case. Just hours before it was due to start, however, G's lawyer called to say that she was leaving the country with no plans to return because her mother was ill. Weeks later, G was back on American soil as one of 400 guests at Chelsea Clinton's July 31st wedding in New York. Still, Brad's deposition never took place. Brad's deposition with G. Now, 6 years later, Brad was looking forward to finally putting G in the hot seat at the Boys Schiller Flexner offices in Manhattan. But less than 24 hours before, G's lawyers challenged what's known as pro hack vice, a temporary grant of permission for Paul Cassell and Brad, who were licensed in Florida, to represent me, their client, in New York. The judge ruled that Siggy would be the one questioning G. This was an unexpected curveball. Pro hacks, as the requests for temporary permissions are known, are rarely challenged. Siggy was counsel of record and had been working day and night on my case, including helping Brad prepare for the depot. But still, she told me, it's different when you're the one in the box. Don't worry, Sig. G is going to take the fifth, Brad predicted. I mean, we know all the crimes that she's committed. There's no way she cannot take the fifth. Still, just to be safe, Siggy stayed up all night preparing two things: a lengthy list of questions she didn't expect to get substantive answers to, and a strategy to deal with the master manipulator she knew G to be. Hey, Anna Bees, did I text you? I meant to. Sorry if I didn't. Lover's Beach is over the hump from Divorce Beach. That's funny. Over the hump. Too funny. Yeah. How is it being back at work? It's been like a month, hasn't it? And I'm just doing my sour lemon base. That was all my cranberry juice. Now on to the water. I'll do one sip of water just to get that cranberry gone. Just as a chaser, right? I'm drinking coffee. Yeah, that's good since you got to be up all night on your toes, huh? Does it feel good to be back at work, I hope? And your daughter's doing better? um, the deposition began just after 9 a.m. on April 22nd, 2016. Anna Bees, thank you so much for that heads up about Bubba. I couldn't believe that I didn't take that seriously. And I actually I hadn't noticed the link that you sent me, but I had seen other stuff about it online and just thought, oh, that's all photoshopped. I thought that's all AI. Totally laughed my butt off. Absolutely. What a trip, man. It just gets wilder and wilder, doesn't it? It's it's so out of control. Like, really, this is our country? Like, aren't we grown-ups? Aren't we civilized? What's going on? Just a bunch of freaking apes playing alpha in having a pissing contest or a sucking contest. Okay. Deposition began at 9 a.m. on April 22nd, 2016. After G was sworn in, Siggy asked her to state her address and her date of birth. Then Superwoman asked her the first substantive question: when did you first recruit a female to work for Mr. E? G acted confused. I don't understand what you mean by female. Yeah, they are sick. They say we are uncouth. Yeah. Yep. She said, I don't understand what you mean by recruit. Siggy didn't blink. Are you a female? She asked. G said yes. Then Siggy repeated her question. It would take several back and forths before G finally said she'd first hired a woman who is 40 or 50 years old to work for E, probably in 1992. This was going to be slow going, it seemed, but that was all right because amazingly, G wasn't taking the fifth. Did you ever hire someone who was under the age of 18? Siggy asked. Never, G said. Did you invite Virginia Gouffre to come to J.E.'s home when she was under the age of 18? Siggy continued. G shot back. Virginia Roberts held herself out as a masseuse and invited herself to come and give me a massage. Siggy repeated her question word for word, which prompted G to quibble. Again, I did not invite Virginia Roberts. She came as a masseuse, and so it went for hours. G said she didn't recall meeting me at Mar-a-Lago and denied participating in that first massage that she'd recruited me to give E. In fact, she denied ever giving a massage in my presence. Siggy forged ahead. She began noticing that G got agitated every time she looked down at her notes, ignoring G. So she continued not making eye contact, getting under G's skin. Have you heard Mr. E use the phrase, the younger the better? She asked. G said she had no such recollection and called me just an awful fantasist. When G didn't want to answer something, she was dismissive. Let's move on, she demanded at one point, haughty as ever. Siggy remained calm. I'm in charge of the deposition, Siggy said. I say when we move on and when we don't. Hey, Anna Bees and everybody, Annie and all, did you guys hear that El Presidente was playing the Phantom of the Opera at the White House really loud today outside of the White House? The Phantom of the Opera. He is insane. He is completely insane. When Siggy asked, did you have a basket of Smex toys that you kept at the Palm Beach house? G obfuscated. First of all, what do you mean? She asked. In response, Siggy repeated the question. She would soon have to repeat it again, and then again, and then again. G kept issuing denials and asking Siggy to define even simple words puppet, party, school regularly. The list went on and on. I never, ever, at any single time, at any point ever, at all, participated in anything with Virginia and E, G said, which is hilarious because the whole rule with testifying is to never say never or always. You always want to leave the door open in case you're like literally forgetting something. But she says never, ever, at any single point in time, ever, at all, participated in anything. It's like, oh my goodness. I barely would remember her if not for all this rubbish. Over and over, when Siggy asked G if she was aware of some particular detail in the case, G was non responsive, saying instead, I'm aware that Virginia has lied repeatedly. I've, let's see. Why, Annabise asks, that would be hilarious if it wasn't happening to all of us. Why did they use nicknames in emails but not for the Trumpster fire? I found that interesting. Ara, what's up, girl? Oh my goodness, I love you. I haven't seen you in forever. How are you? So nice to see you. I found that interesting, almost like maybe they knew these emails were going to come out and still trying to protect certain people. Yeah, it is wild, is it not? So freaking wild. Amazing to see you, my dear. It took me a minute to realize it wasn't Anna B's because all her comments and then both starting with the A. Trump's name is out there, but nicknames for everyone else. Great to see you. I just feel like all of these emails and the Trumpstein files, I feel like finally the dam is busting wide open, but I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch. Um, I have been saying all along, I've been saying for weeks, if not months, that the president would sooner blow up the world, like literally start a war, before admitting any fault, or that he would do that just to distract from anything. So I still fully expect it. Um, I mean, I know there's been all the threats with Venezuela, but I feel like he's also threatened there to be another terrorist attack on American soil. Something he said a couple of days ago. Ridiculous. These people are running the country with their effing cocks in their hands and then sucking each other off. I mean, sorry, not sorry. These MFs, man, they just need to like step off and go to hell. Just like let us live and have a free country. My goodness. Is that asking too much? I have no respect for any of these savages anymore. I know. It's nuts. I mean, I didn't like him the first time around, but I always try to see the glasses half full rather than half empty. And I thought, maybe he can prove me wrong. Maybe he can be decent. And of course, we all know how the first run went, and this one is just a shit show. And it's just been, I mean, I think he was an illegitimate candidate to begin with because of the insurrection. He didn't meet the qualifications to even be on the ticket. I mean, it's just been bullshit the entire time. Tell me why America is great. The American people should be in an uproar, but it's not being covered in major news as much as it should be. I know. Well, thank goodness for YouTube and, just like podcasters and independent reporting. And thank goodness for Michael Moore. No, not Michael Moore. Why am I blanking on his name? The guy in the emails, Michael. Why am I blanking on his last name at the moment? The one who's with Joanna Cole on the Inside Trump's Head. Michael Wolf. Thank you. That's it. Yeah. I've become a fan of his in recent weeks. Like at first I was very not down with him, and then I would keep watching the Inside Trump's Head. Have you seen that? I mean, it's really good. Him and Joanna Coles have a great chemistry, a great rapport, and he just knows his stuff. I mean, he knows T and E very well, and he despises them both. And I think he's done an incredible job. And I love the way that he's standing up for himself, and a lot of people are pushing back on him. And at the same time that he's defending himself, he's also just like, it goes with the territory. If I'm going to do what I'm going to do, then people are going to do this. I know that that's how it goes. So I have full confidence that he's going to burn the house down almost by himself. Like, I mean, he's the one suing Melania for $1 billion and getting the depositions rolling with her and DJT. And he's planning on subpoenaing G. Michael Wolf is planning on subpoenaing G as quickly as he can. That's why he already filed this suit, is so he can get on with the depositions. Yay, Michael, you go. You go. Okay, where was I? I'm just so excited that we're all here. Woohoo! Party on, Garth. It's Saturday night. This is us living large, right? Our little book club. It is a very good book. Very, very good. And we are almost done. We're on page 280. So we got about 80 pages left. 86, I think, to be exact. Isn't that amazing? It's been less than a week that we've been reading it. And I think we're going to probably get done over the weekend. If not, we'll finish up anything left over on Monday. Let's see. Unless we stay up all night, we can do it, right? We can do it tonight. We are all so excited for Ara to be here. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. You read so well. Oh, aren't you so sweet, Annabese? And I need to figure out where I am and then get to a stopping place and then take a quick bathroom break. But I want to first figure out where I am so that I don't come back just completely lost. I think I was right here at the very top when she said, I barely would remember her if not for all this rubbish. I think that's the last thing I said. Over and over, when Siggy asked G if she was aware of some particular detail of the case, G was non-responsive, saying instead, I'm aware that Virginia has lied repeatedly. It's like that wasn't the question. But there were signs that G was starting to crack. You are trying to trap me. I will not be trapped, she admonished Siggy. G denied being able to recall flying on E's plane with me. And then, when given flight logs that listed her initials next to mine, protested, how do you know that GM is me? After Siggy asked if G had ever taken photographs of naked or semi-naked girls at E's homes, G snapped, I know where you're headed with this, and it's nowhere appropriate. Sounds just like her. It's nowhere appropriate. Siggy held her ground again. I'm not heading anywhere. I'm just asking the questions. After a lunch break, the tightly controlled G finally lost her temper. She had repeated that she didn't remember meeting me at Mar-a-Lago, prompting Siggy to ask, are you saying that it was an obvious lie that you approached Virginia while she was underage at Mar-a-Lago? G's lawyer objected, but his client went off. She was particularly worked up about me getting my age wrong in the first civil suit against E way back in 2009. As I've explained, yeah, here we go again with all the muddying of the water. When I'd said I was 15 when I met her, when I actually was 16, it had been an honest mistake. But in 1999, she would have been 15, turning 16, and it was before her birthday. She said it was 1998 initially, which I believed that it was, and that she was about to turn 15. That's what I think. But that's just my opinion. Again, I think that she was negotiated with and threatened to make it fuzzy. Oh, you're so sweet, my dear, saying that you're excited to be here. I'm just thrilled. I've missed you, darling. And I've wondered, are you still doing your channel? Are you still doing content? But Maxwell, you don't have to answer if you don't want to. It's she also didn't name DT. Well, she brings him up by name close to half a dozen times in the book. So being mentioned in the book is being mentioned in the book. You don't want to be mentioned in this book unless you're like the superhero like Siggy. And she mentions Mar-a-Lago in the book, what, about 50 times, 100 times? So, sure, you could say she didn't name him. But I know that she filed a lawsuit against him for SA that she withdrew, and just like a handful of E survivors filed lawsuits against DJT alleging SA and then withdrew them. Like the one Katie Johnson, the one who filed it 3 times before the 2016 election. Remember Katie Johnson that says she was 13? And I read you guys that whole lawsuit from front to back a few months ago. And yeah, that's also, there's an interview of her with Savannah Guthrie that I know BoobTube posted that interview, and I will put the link in the description. So for anybody who hasn't seen that Katie Johnson interview, it's so sad. And I think they have her face blurred out. But anyway, also a handful of the victims that filed lawsuits against Alan Dershowitz that have all retracted the lawsuits and the allegations. I'm thinking she was trying to get this book published, so she was careful who she mentioned. If not, then maybe not a lot of publishers would grab it. Yeah, Ara, she says straight up that she is leaving a lot of names out because she has to. But she's still deceased, and I don't think she did it to herself. I don't care what people say. I think that this book is why she's not alive anymore. And yeah, she says again and again. So I also read, I have the manuscript here, it fell onto the floor. I also read the whole Billionaires Playboy Club in 3 parts a couple weeks ago. And that is sort of a rough draft of this. And so there's inconsistencies, and some of that she says was intentional because this, that, and the other. But it's very, very educational to read them both. So yeah, and this is my second read through on this, my first time reading it on camera. And yeah, publishers, even this book as it's published, they might have made adjustments before they published it that she didn't know about because she was already deceased. So absolutely, what you said is absolutely accurate. But we need to read between the lines. Exactly. I feel like the American people need the finger pointed exactly at someone. If not, we pretend like we don't know. Exactly. I know, it's so stupid. American people are also jaded. Right. We've become like immune to all of the crazy because there's so much. She posted on Twitter that she was not going to take her own life. I know, Ara. I'm not even convinced that her husband was a DV perpetrator against her. I'm thinking that the time she was beat up, it could have been makeup, and or it could have been the thugs that were harassing her and trying to scare her. And yeah, that whole thing with that bus and all of it. And you know, she passed away the day before Melania's birthday. The day before Melania's birthday. And Melania has a movie coming out in January, the Melania story. And she's trying to sell herself as not one of E's girls. And she was one of E's girls. So, you know, Virginia knew the truth. E knew the truth. Brunel knew the truth. G knows the truth. And all but G of those are deceased. So, Um, but she did have a plan if she was taken out. It was a gift to Melania. I know. I think it was. I totally think it was. She's a Russian asset, 1,000%. I know you said 100%, but yeah, I just figured out that for sure. Like I've wondered for a long time, but just this last week, I'm just like, duh. So very true, Ara. Yeah. Yeah, when she said that crap about the 8 kids that she was in talks with Daddy Vladdy to get the 8 Ukrainian kids back to their families or whatever. And she's like, I've been having conversations with Vladdy. It's like she totally gave herself away. And it's so funny because she probably thought, and her husband probably thought, and Vladdy probably thought, all of them probably thought that it was going to make her look good and make him look good. And it didn't, but it outed them. And I love it when they do that. They're so stupid. Um, Russian assets are bred for this. True. And JD's wife is an asset. Kirk's wife is a honeypot. Yeah, we are all over Kirk's wife. She competed in Arizona Miss Teen in 2007, and it's all been scrubbed from the internet. But I have 4 different pieces of evidence that I have found on the internet. She competed in 2007 for the Miss Arizona, and I have a couple of them posted on my community tab. I didn't know that about JD's wife, but that wouldn't surprise me at all. They have America by the balls now. That's what they wanted all along. Except they keep underestimating our democracy. They keep underestimating people, and they keep overestimating their own stuff. Billy, woohoo! Erica is totally a plant by bad actors. Yeah. Hey. Okay, I'm going to keep reading, and then I do need to take a bathroom break in a second. I am so excited. We're all here. Let's just read the whole book. Let's just get it done. Or we can just have a chat too, but we'll do both for now. We'll continue. Let's see. Where was I? I think I was right here. I'm not heading anywhere. I'm just asking the questions. That's Siggy. After the lunch break, the tightly controlled G finally lost her temper. I think I actually might be rereading this, but I'll just continue with it. She had repeated that she didn't remember meeting me at Mar-a-Lago, prompting Siggy to ask, are you saying that it was an obvious lie that you approached Virginia while she was underage at Mar-a-Lago? Yeah, I did read this, but I'm going to reread it anyway. This one paragraph. Maxwell's lawyer G's lawyer objected, but his client went off. Yeah, which that's just great. It's like you do not defy your own attorney because they're looking out for your best interests. But it's just so classic. She was particularly worked up about me getting my age wrong in my first civil suit against E way back in 2009. As I've explained, when I said I was 15, when I met her, when I was actually 16, it had been an honest mistake. But G described it as a lie that was perpetrated between all of you to make this story more exciting. Oh, that's so funny because, again, it's just showing evidence of how worked up they get about like 1 year age difference. Like they think it is going to make it less harsh if she's 16 rather than 15 or 15 rather than 14. And to some degree, yeah, but again, even if she was 21, it's still criminal. The way she was assaulted is absolutely criminal, even if she wasn't underage. But yeah, it gets worse with the whole statutory thing. And then that whole crap with Megan, Ara, and Billy, and Anna Bees wasn't here. We're calling Megan R. Kelly. You know, Megan Kelly is now Megan R. Kelly. That effing argument she was trying to make about age. Petty bitch. Jizz was so jealous of Virginia. Exactly. The age. The age was a big thing. But also, I mean, just because um, E wanted to get Virginia pregnant, he didn't want to get G pregnant. Now, did he? And she could have, like, even at 40, she could have still carried her own baby, but he wasn't interested in her genes. He wanted the blonde, right? I mean, it's all that whole eugenics crap. Like, they're obsessed with like that German blonde hair, blue eye bullshit. Absolutely ridiculous. A lie was perpetrated between all of you to make the story more exciting. Can we agree on that? She bellowed. That is not my question, Siggy responded, but G kept going, and now she began to slam her fists on the table as she spoke, like a toddler throwing a temper tantrum. Can we agree she was not the age she said, and you put that in the press? That is obviously, manifestly, absolutely, totally a lie, as she's hitting her fists on the table. Apparently, G was a fearsome sight as she pounded the table. The court reporter, a usually unflappable woman whom Siggy had known for years, looked more terrified than Siggy had ever seen her. But Siggy, she was a woman of steel. I'm going to put on the record, Siggy stated, Ms. G very inappropriately and very harshly pounded our law firm table. I ask she take a deep breath and calm down. The lawyer agreed that it was a good time for a break. It was 1:56 p.m. Too funny. E wanted younger girls, and G helped him get what he wanted. All the men she hung out with wanted younger girls. I know, and the younger the better. I mean, for disgusto Megan R. Kelly's argument, they wouldn't have minded if the kids were that young. Like when she was saying, like, there's a big difference between 5 and 15, and a big difference between 8 and 18. And it's just like, yeah, you're not helping by arguing these points. I mean, she's a sick freak, man. She's just scum. And she's getting paid to do that, no doubt. No doubt. And that's why G made it happen. Either she was in or out. If women protected women, none of this would have happened. I am off for painkiller and bed, ankle at about 4 on pain level. Oh, I'm glad you're taking care of yourself, Fred. And I am going to take a quick break myself, just a quick potty break. And I'm not going to lose where I'm at. I had just said where the lawyers agreed it would be a good time for a break. It was 1:56 p.m. and that's the top of 281. So it'll just take me a second. Hi, baby. Look at my. baby. Come on in. Oh my goodness, you guys. Wait till I tell you what I've been missing in the other part of the house. My family's having a little cookout. I didn't even know it. It smells so good. So very exciting. They have a bonfire out back. They've grilled up some hamburgers. But I'm happy to be in here with you guys and then get some of that later. I'm all better now that I took my little potty break. Oh, and I'm sorry for the cleavage. One sec. Let me take care of that. I try to avoid that at all costs, but it happens, right? Adjust. Okay. Yes. Good night, Fred, if you're still in earshot. And here we are. It was 1:56 p.m. 17 minutes later, the deposition resumed and went on, with G denying all wrongdoing, denying that she knew I'd gone to Thailand, denying that she gave me instructions to meet a girl. They're denying. So, Ara, you're probably aware of this too, that it's my hypothesis, it's my allegation that E sold Melania to DJT. I think she started modeling when she was 5. I've done a lot of research on this, and I think that she was probably procured by Jean-Luc Brunel, but I also think that she was one of the people that he sold to one of his billionaire friends to marry. That's what I think. Let me shift around a little bit. I think Putin sold her to Trump. Oh, you are probably correct. Yeah, he definitely plays into it. As a gift, like Meghan Markle was given to Prince Harry. That's why Melania just smile and wave. I've always thought that. Well, I've always thought that that DJT was in love with Daddy Vladdy. I've always thought that he wanted to be sucking him off. So yeah, none of this Bubba crap. I was gonna say none of it surprises me, but I'm lying. It does surprise me that it was Bubba. I'm sure he wanted it to be Vladdy, Daddy Vladdy. I think he had a big crush on the North Korea guy too. What's his name? That weirdo. Soon Jong-e or something like that. Ara says the president has posted the full letter from First Lady Melania Trump that he hand-delivered to Russia's Vladimir Putin at Friday's summit in Alaska regarding the fate of the Ukraine war. That letter from like a month or two ago when they met up in Alaska. See, I think he met with Vladdy. I think that he met with the royals. About them all keeping each other's secrets. I think that our president is threatening and blackmailing all these people all the time, but then they have dirt on him too, so it goes both ways. That's a headline on The Independent. Why is Melania writing to Putin? Right. Well, they might be. When they came out with that news a few weeks ago, it just made me think that she was in bed with him, like literally in bed with him. But I'm sure she has been at some points in time, if not now, but probably now too. I'm sure he did Vladdy too. That's her handler. Oh, Vladdy's her handler? That makes sense. That totally makes sense. All right. Yeah, these whack jobs. 17 minutes later, the deposition resumed and went on. I think I read a little bit of this, but I'll reread it. With Maxwell denying all wrongdoings, denying that she knew I'd gone to Thailand, denying that she gave me instructions to meet a girl there, denying, until Siggy ran out of time at 6:43 p.m. In the end, the deposition, including breaks, had stretched over 10 hours, and Siggy had interrogated G for 7 of them. Since then, I've read that some lawyers who faced off against Siggy compared her to Uma Thurman's sword wielding assassin in Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill films. Unexpectedly deadly is how an adversary once described her. To me, Siggy's performance with G only confirmed that. David Boies would also shine a few months later when he deposed G in a second session. All my lawyers, David, Siggy, Brad, and Paul Cassell, were working so hard for me. Brad and Siggy were both by my side during my 2 depositions conducted by G's lawyers in Denver, and my lawyers were also deposing scores of others who had knowledge of G's behavior. For example, they'd taken the depositions of Ronaldo Rizzo, a former chef of an E associate, and his wife. Rizzo said that on one occasion, E and G had brought a 15-year-old Swedish girl to the couple's home and then left her in the kitchen with Rizzo and his wife, who were cooking dinner. At first, the girl stayed quiet, but she was quivering and shaking and appeared to be terrified. When Rizzo asked about her connection to E, though, the girl began weeping and blurted out that she had been on E's island with G and another woman. The girl claimed that the 3 adults had pressured her to have schmecks, but she declined. G took my passport. Rizzo recalled the girl telling him and his wife. The girl also said G had threatened her, Rizzo said, and told her not to tell anyone about their advances. As someone who'd frequently had my passport held by G, I read this deposition with a queasy feeling. I knew how scary it was to be controlled by that woman. Rizzo's account was an important corroboration of my own experience. But if I had to point to a single example of my team's excellent work, it would have to be the response to G's motion for summary judgment that Siggy filed on January 31st, 2017. G's team was claiming that I'd raised no genuine issue to be tried. They had asked the judge to rule in G's favor and to make this case go away. Not so fast, wrote Siggy. First, she tore apart G's argument that she could not have abused or transported me when I was a minor, summarizing G's contention that employment records show that Ms. Gouffre was either 16 or 17 when defendant recruited her from her job at Mar-a-Lago for schmecks with E, not 15 years old as plaintiff originally thought, Siggy asserted. Call this the yes, I'm a sex trafficker, but only of 16-year-old girls defense. Oh, this gets really funny, you guys. This is just the first of many. Siggy says, call this the yes, I'm a sex trafficker, but only of 16-year-old girls defense. In response to G's claim that she didn't, quote, regularly participate in E's sexual exploitation on minors, end quote, Siggy wrote, call this the yes, I'm a sex trafficker, but only on Tuesdays and Thursdays defense. In response to G's argument that I couldn't have been a sex slave because I was not confined or made G's legal property, Siggy quoted an expert on sex trafficking who explained that people didn't have to be chained to a bed to be considered victims of contemporary forms of slavery. Siggy then characterized G's stance, called this Yes, I'm a Smex trafficker, but I didn't use chains defense. Sorry. I like this Siggy. She's hilarious. When G claimed that she did not create child PORN and that the government knew she didn't, Siggy quipped, "Call me this the until you find the photos I'm innocent defense." And when G asserted that she did not act as a madam for E, Siggy responded that the gist of G's argument seems to be that defendant believes transporting one girl to E does not a madame make. Call this the "yes, I was Virginia's madame, but no one else's" defense. She's good, isn't she? She's a clever lady. Um, yeah, I got a kick out of that part. I love it. Too funny. "Yes, I was Virginia's madam, but no one else's." It's all so sad, but you gotta laugh and just make some humor when you can. It's like laugh or cry, right? I mean, even Virginia's laughing about it there. In conclusion, Siggy wrote that if G was involved in my abuse as we were arguing, then her January 15th statement accusing me of obvious lies was defamatory. Siggy asked the court to deny G's motion for summary judgment, and on March 22nd, 2017, Judge Robert W. Sweet did exactly that. Trial was set for May 15th. The next few months were a frenzy of activity. Siggy and Brad and Paul were furiously preparing for trial, wrangling countless witnesses and putting more than 1,000 exhibits in order. They booked us all hotel rooms for the 4 weeks they thought the trial would take, as well as a large war room across the street from the courthouse. And they scheduled the final depositions they needed. A third grilling of G because she had refused to answer certain questions in her previous depositions. This one was going to take place in the courtroom with the judge as a referee a week before trial. I've never heard of that. That is awesome. By this point, a few settlement discussions had been held and gone nowhere. My lawyers believed that we were headed to trial. Still, I had flew in a few weeks beforehand for the final mediation scheduled for May 3rd, which David Boyes and Brad's then partner, Stan Pottinger, were handling since Brad and Siggy and Paul were so swamped with trial prep. A few days later, on the eve of G's final deposition, my team and I agreed to settle, and a few weeks after that, the case was dismissed. I'm not allowed to discuss the terms of the settlement as they're confidential, but I can talk about why I settled. We'd prepared so diligently to expose G's lies in open court, and it would have been deeply satisfying to watch her squirm. I also would have loved to have watched E be called to the stand as my lawyers had planned. Even if he'd taken the fifth as he's done before, it would have done me good to see him interrogated like the criminal that he was. My hair, this thing. It just messes it all up. Look at that. I just redid it. I just got it just the same, didn't I? Right where I started. Okay, that's all right. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm sure you guys don't care. It's just me. But remember, this was a civil case, not a criminal one. There was never going to be an outcome that sent G to jail. Oh, never. Never say never. At least not directly. In the end, if we'd taken it to trial and won, the victory was always going to be about money. For me, the settlement meant I could return to my family sooner than I'd planned, and I looked forward to using my payout to take care of them. It, I was not the first victim to be criticized for settling, and I would not be the last. But to those who think less of me for doing so, I'd ask you to remember the devastatingly accurate assertion I'd made in my first lawsuit, Jane Doe 102 versus JE. The one that I said I'd permanently suffered not only a loss of income, but a loss of the capacity to enjoy life. G and E had stolen something precious from me, something I could rise up. Sometimes I could rise above that loss, but other times, even still, I could not. That's so sad, isn't it? Craziness. So, financially, my family had struggled. While I would have liked to re enter the workforce, I felt as if I was unemployable. At times, I grew so desperate to explain my spotty work history during the years I was transported that I made up fake jobs and employers to list on my resume. All anyone had to do was Google my name to know who I was. And as I said in one of my depositions, no one wants to hire a sex slave. Meanwhile, as I've said, ongoing threats to my family's safety meant that more and more Robbie felt he could no longer work outside the home, especially since I'd sued G. The paparazzi were back, circling our family like vultures. And he felt he needed to deliver the kids to and from school each day. In the end, there was this. For months now, preparing for trial had been my primary occupation. Motherhood had taken a back seat, and that had cost me in ways that are difficult to quantify. During the first half of 2017, I'd been distracted at best and at worst absent. Let me rearrange a little. Come here, Coco. Come here, baby. Aww. Um, I never missed a birthday or holiday, but anyone who is a parent will understand that I often went without something much more important, the day to day mundane moments that make up a mother's life. Pouring bubbles in the little kids' baths, making sure homework preceded playtime, even having simple arguments. No, Alex, you may not race around our neighborhood at night in a souped up go kart. Only because I had a great husband and understanding in laws, had the wheels not fallen off the bus that was the Gouffre household. There's a omen right there, huh? The wheels falling off the bus. When when G defamed me, she'd eroded my credibility and thus my ability to help other victims. If I could use some of her money to help me heal, to let me focus on my kids, and to fuel my attempts to do good, then I was happy to take it. A Reckoning Begins, Chapter 30. Thanks for letting me know, Ara. I'll be right back. Um, I just got a tickle in my throat. I might need one of my Tic Tacs. I think I will do that sooner rather than later, even though it kind of complicates complicates the braces and the wax. Then throw a Tic Tac on top of that, but it helps with the tickle a lot, and they taste good. So 30, A Reckoning Begins. We are on page 286. Whether talking to journalists or working with law enforcement, or filing lawsuits. So many brave women have stood up to E and G. You know what? I should just bite this one sec. Yeah, it helps if I just like crunch it up. Sorry, sorry if you hear the little crunch bites. Um, but when each of them first decided to do so, I can guarantee every single one felt terrified and alone. While I'd been in E and G's world, they'd safeguard their evil enterprise by stoking rivalries, strategically keeping girls from forging alliances, the whole divide and conquer. So, first thing that perps do is isolate their victims. In their presence, then, we'd been kept at odds with each other. And even after I'd escaped, I still felt isolated for a long, long time. Now, however, as I learned of other women who had come forward, solidarity, solitary, that solitary feeling was starting to lift. I knew about Courtney Wild from the CBRA case, and it turned out that there were two sisters, Annie and Maria Farmer. Those two are so outspoken, like today, right now, still. They're awesome. Who'd been trying for nearly 2 decades to expose what E and G had done to them. As word spread that there were a handful of lawyers representing a growing number of E's victims and getting results, more women were choosing to break their silence. In October 2016, for example, a South African woman named Sarah Ransom called Paul Cassell. She told him that she too had been a victim of E and G in '06 and '07. She said she'd been following my story in the media and had found the Facebook page of my nonprofit, Victims Refuse Silence. Is Ara back? Because Ara might not be aware of the big tell in this book that you guys know I'm so blown away by Virginia finding out that her dad took money from E, that he basically sold her. Um, I don't know if Ara's back or not, or if she might already know that. It sounds like she's done her own deep diving too. Ara is so good at research. I miss her lives where she does all the researching, all the sleuthing. Let's see. Um, where was I? The Victims Refuse Silence, the one Brad had helped me found in 2014. Ransom said she wanted to assist my case in any way she could. Paul gathered my legal team in a room at Boys Schiller Flexner, and they called Sarah back in Barcelona, Spain, where she was living. She said she'd been abused by E and G in various locations beginning when she was 22. Specifically, she said that E had raped her repeatedly while on his island and that G facilitated it while also starving, berating, and swindling her. Like me, she had photographs of herself with them. She hadn't been a minor during this period, but what happened to her was still wrong and still illegal. I'm here but listening. Oh, cool, Annabise. Thanks for letting me know, my dear. Um, in early 17, right before his 10-year statute of limitations was about to expire, Boys Schiller Flexner filed a lawsuit on Sarah Ransom's behalf against E and G. The charge, violation of the federal SMEX transporting statute, which prohibits the recruiting, enticing, transporting, or soliciting someone for SMECS by means of fraud, force, or coercion. Before I settled with G, Ransom had flown to New York to serve as a witness in my defamation case. While the mounting number of cases against E and G was heartening, however, there were indications that public awareness of their crimes was either fading or had never been very high in the first place. DJT was now president, and in early 17, he nominated Alexander Acosta, biggest scumbag in the world. But DJT is so stupid that by nominating Alexander Acosta, he's basically implicating himself in the sweetheart deal, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. The former federal prosecutor based in Miami, who had approved E's shameful, secretive non-prosecution agreement to be the Secretary of Labor, Acosta was confirmed in April 2017. At the same time, accounts of describing the mistreatment of women passed the home evaluation. Robbie and I took a required class to get educated about the challenges some foster kids might have. And right away, we were matched with a 3-year-old girl. Her father was absent, we were told, and her mother was in prison and had decided to give her up for adoption. I knew with all my heart that we should give this little girl a home. This is sad. This little 3-year-old, very sad. 1 sec. Let me see. It looks like I got a text. Nothing I need to worry about. But then Siggy called. She needed me to travel to the U.S. again. I can't remember what the reason was. It's possible that it was for a deposition in one of my survivor sisters' cases, but I do remember it was urgent. I had 3 days to get there. As I began packing, Robbie said we needed to talk. Jenna, you know I love kids, but you've been the one pushing us to adopt, he said. I'm on board, but it's you who really wants to give back like this. But if you're not going to be here, he hesitated, which was rare for him. Finally, he said, it's just not fair. You need to commit to one thing or the other. I understood the choice he was laying out for me. Keep on fighting to expose E's cabal, or step back, adopt a new daughter, and stay home with my expanding family. It's either this or that, he said. I knew Robbie was right, even though I didn't want him to be. The tensions between my desire to be an activist and my desire to put my family first was always there for me. But in this instance, it required that I make a stark choice. I wanted to do both, especially now that I knew of a particular child whom we could help. I yearned to do so, but at the same time, I'd started with Siggy. What I'd started with Siggy was nowhere near done, and seeing it through, whatever it took, would potentially help other young women and girls. So I made a choice, and a few days later, I got on the plane to the States. To this day, I think about that little girl I never met and wonder how all of our lives would be different if she had joined our family. It was during this period that Julie K. Brown, an investigative journalist at the Miami Herald, began digging into the E case. She has said that she was prompted in part by Alex Acosta's elevation to Trump's cabinet, and by the fact that during Acosta's confirmation hearings, E's name had barely come up. The Miami Herald's investigations editor gave Brown the go-ahead and assigned a videographer, Emily Mitchett, to work with her to capture interviews with E's victims on tape. In early December 17, they recorded their first emotional on-camera interview with Michelle Licata. who'd been essayed by E when she was just 14. They would later conduct similar videotaped interviews with Courtney Wild and Jenna Lisa Jones, who was 14 when E fondled her during a massage and paid her $200 afterwards. And Brown and Michaud wanted to record a conversation with me. In early 18, David Boys and Siggy met with Brown, who told them she was determined to get the sealed court records of my defamation case against G unsealed. In her experience, victims of SA often wanted to keep the details of what happened to them private, so she was expecting pushback, but my lawyers told her she'd get no opposition from us. The more light she could shine on the darkest corners of E's evil world, the better, we said. In March 18, I sat down for a video interview with Brown. We'd meet more than once, but at the end of that first interview, I told her I was fighting not just for myself, but for every E victim. I'm not going to stop, I said, until all of these girls get justice. When I said all the girls, I was quite consciously including those I was sure E was continuing to abuse in the present day. Remember, he was a free man who, despite being a convicted Rex offender, was still unrepentant about his taste for minor girls. We know this without a doubt because in mid August of 18, E invited a New York Times reporter named James Stewart to his Manhattan townhouse for a chat. The meeting was on background, which meant, one second, I skipped a page, which meant Stewart could only use whatever information he gleaned if he didn't attribute it directly to E. And there's a footnote there. Another tic tac. Sorry. You don't need to hear that. Alrighty. The readers of the New York Times wouldn't know this, however, until 3 days after E's death in 19, in an article titled "The Day Jeffrey Epstein Told Me He Had Dirt on Powerful People." Stewart explained that his promise to keep their conversations on background had expired because E was deceased. Ooh. During their conversations, ostensibly about Elon Musk, whose business dealings Stewart was investigating, E offered an off-topic aside, calling the criminalization of SMECs with teenage girls a cultural aberration. He supported his belief by noting that at certain times in history, it had been seen as acceptable. E compared the vilification of men who had schmecks with minor girls to the way gay and lesbian people had been treated for decades. Homosexuality, he noted, had long been considered a crime and was still punishable by death in some parts of the world. Clearly, E still felt righteous about having smecks with whoever he pleased, regardless of age. In November 18, Brown's series of articles, accompanied by Michaud's videos, went live. The series was called Perversion of Justice, and in it, Brown revealed the behind-the-scenes maneuvering that led to E's non-prosecution agreement, zeroing in on Acosta's role in it. He's such a effing bastard. He still needs to pay. She uncovered 80 victims of E, some as young as 13 when the abuse occurred, and revealed the campaign of terror that E and his cronies had used to try to silence those victims. Remember when that car shined its headlights on our front door in Colorado? Well, Brown found a victim in Florida who'd endured the same kind of hazing. Finally, the series documented the experience of 8 survivors in detail with on the record interviews. I was among them. The series was fantastic, in no small part because of Michaud. Her videos forced readers of Brown's hard hitting reporting to see all of us who'd survived E and G's abuse as human beings. The Hollywood Reporter noted the videos acted as something of a force multiplier, creating a 3-dimensional platform for E's teenage victims to tell their harrowing stories. Brown's series drove over 9.5 million unique visits to the Miami Herald website, while Michaud's videos were watched 850,000 times on the paper's website alone and millions more times on YouTube. Yeah, I'll try to find those and put links in the description. Let me rearrange my sitting here. I'm just getting uncomfortable from being in the same position for too long. Time to sit Indian style. Okay, better. Except when the book falls. I see where I'm at. And let's see if I don't want to cut the top of my head off. I can do that to move it up a smidge. So it's been almost 2.5 hours. We'll see if we can go to about 3 hours, maybe 40 more minutes. And then I'll probably have hit about 50 pages and have about 50 left. Does that sound good for you guys? If you want to give any input. You're just thrown into a world that you don't understand. I said in one video, describing what I and so many others had gone through. I'm going to grab some pillows too. I have one of these fancy, like, pillow type of laptop desk things. Let's see if that'll work. I think it will. I hadn't tried that, but yeah, that's actually really good. You're just thrown into a world that you don't understand. I said in one video, describing what I and so many others had gone through with E and G. And you're screaming on the inside. Oh, see, that reminds me of Kylie, you guys. Screaming on the inside, and you don't know how to let it come out. It totally is like the lyrics in Far Away. And you just become this numb figure who refuses to feel and refuses to speak. All you do is obey. That's it. Brown has rightly been credited with refocusing the attention of the public and law enforcement on E and G's heinous acts. We now know that not long after the Herald ran Brown's first story, the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York opened an investigation into E. I will always be grateful for what Brown and Michaud did. I'm not sure I'm saying that name right. Machot. It's Mchot. It's probably French. It's probably Michaud. Did for the countless women who'd been victimized, first by E and G, but then again by their own government. I also have to thank Brown with helping me understand that despite the problems I'd had with the members of the tabloid media, working with good journalists could do a lot of good. More and more, I began to make myself available to reporters who reached out. Maybe if I spoke more about what all of us had been through, I thought I could help increase awareness and prevent other young girls and women being abused. It's been said that no good deed goes unpunished, however, and apparently someone thought it was high time I be punished. At some point in this period, the FBI called me in Australia to say that there had been a credible threat on my life. The agent told me that Robbie and I should contact the Australian Federal Police immediately. I called right away, but kept getting transferred from one person to another. I was so scared that I was shaking. Robbie stood next to me as I waited on hold, determined to stay on the phone until someone helped us. But after explaining myself over and over, only to be transferred again, I was out of patience. That's when Robbie stepped in. Start packing, he told me. I've got a plan. From the earliest days of our relationship, Robbie had been my protector, my savior, even. Now he was going to deliver us from danger once again. He rented a large mobile home and loaded the kids, the dogs, and me into it. Within a few hours, we had hit the road heading north. I didn't think I could maneuver that big of a vehicle, so Robbie drove for 8 hours straight. We ended up in a one horse town at the top of Queensland, not far from Cape Melville National Park. The town had no grocery, just a convenience store where we could buy milk and bread, but it was completely off grid, which was what we needed most. There we would stay, cooking and sleeping in our RV, swatting mosquitoes, and occasionally fishing for 3 weeks. How do you decide when a credible threat to your life is no longer dangerous? The answer is you don't. There simply comes a time when you resume normal routines. When we returned to Cairns, we let the local police know what the FBI had told me. Robbie and I tried to make the kids feel safe, even though we weren't certain that they were. Day and night, I worried that my family would be harmed by the very people who had hurt me when I was a teenager. And in addition to fear, I felt rage. How entitled and selfish do you have to be to continue hounding and threatening the very victims you'd hurt before? It drove me crazy to think these people could potentially get away with silencing me for good. Prophetic. When someone on Twitter speculated that the FBI might kill me to protect the ultra rich and well connected, I felt the need to respond. If I died suddenly, I tweeted, no one should believe that it was an accident. I am making it publicly known that no way, shape, or form am I suicidal. I typed hastily but resolutely, making several spelling and grammatical errors that I've corrected here. I have made this known to my therapist and general practitioner. If something happens to me for the sake of my family, do not let this go away and help me to protect them. Too many people want to see me quieted. So, chapter 31, A Taste of Justice. And let's see how long this chapter is. Or Surviving Sisters Unite, 310. Yeah, why don't we try to get to page 310? That's just 13 more pages. Chapter 31, A Taste of Justice. And we'll read A Taste of Justice, and then we'll read The Survivor Sisters Unite, and then maybe we'll stop there at chapter 33, Unbroken, and finish up the book hopefully tomorrow. Thanks again for being here, you guys. And whether you're on the replay crew or here live, thank you. Thank you. I just think it's so important for this information to be part of our national, like, what's the word? The collective consciousness. That's what I'm looking for. In July 2019 came a day I'd hoped for but never thought I'd see. I remember Siggy calling me. It was early Sunday morning in Australia. You're not going to believe this, she said. Do you have a chair? Because you're going to need to sit down. On July 6th, J.E. had been arrested on federal charges related to SMEX transporting, she said. He'd been apprehended after his private jet touched down at New Jersey's Teterboro Airport. I could imagine the scene, having flown into Teterboro so many times myself with E. Touching my face, I realized I was crying. We would soon learn so much more. At almost the same moment, E was taken into custody. Federal agents had raided his New York townhouse. Inside, they found hundreds, if not thousands, an extraordinary volume, prosecutors said, of nude photographs of young looking women. You mean girls? These were the tokens this super predator had kept to remind himself of all those he'd abused over the years. They also found a safe containing 48 loose diamonds, $70,000 in cash, and 3 passports belonging to E from the US, from Israel, and from Austria. The last one, which expired, appeared to have a photo of E, but included a fake name and listed a home address in Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia. She should be given a medal for her bravery. Oh, I know, Ara. I know, totally. Um, yeah, maybe DJT could do that. Instead of giving a medal for bravery to what Rudy Giuliani and posthumously to Charlie Kirk. Screw him, man. Screw him. Um, Again, just another admission of guilt as far as I'm concerned. This was a man who'd prepared a getaway plan. There's a pretty strong contingency of people who still think that he did get away. I don't know if you have an opinion about that you want to share, Ara. I used to think that he probably had faked his own passing, but I've since come to believe that he was eliminated by the president of the time, the attorney general of the time, the Steve Bannon of the time. And is there another individual that I think might be part of that too? It's really funny about Steve Bannon. He's been in the news in the last couple of days with these emails. And he had been working closely with E right up until the day that E was found no longer alive in his cell. And the story was that the story that he had told, I heard him speaking months ago. Steve Bannon said that he was working with E to try to help E rehabilitate his reputation, when the truth of the matter is that E was trying to help Steve Bannon rehabilitate his reputation. These freaking dirty, lying rat bastards. Opinion about what? Oh, about if Jeffrey Epstein might not be deceased. If you have an opinion about that. I mean, I think more people believe that he didn't do it to himself. Like most people, I think, believe that he was rubbed out. But, some people think that he might still be alive. But yeah, nobody believes that he did it to himself. Just like Jean-Luc Brunel, just like Virginia Giuffre. I do not think he is dead. Ooh, he was an asset from Bibi's country. Yeah, and I think that Bibi is the prime minister that's mentioned in this book many times. The story around how he was left, he was unattended, is stupid. Yeah, and he transferred $555 million into an offshore account 2 days before he disappeared or was Epsteined. 555 million. That's a big chunk of change. So I'm fascinated that you think that he's still around. He had enough secrets to keep him alive. Powerful people like that are above the system. Yeah, I just thought that Donnie wanted him gone, and he was the El Presidente. So, and William Barr should have never had anything to do with Epstein's case because of his dad's connection to Epstein. You probably know about William Barr's dad, Donald Barr, how he was the one who had hired E to work at the high school, the Dalton High School in New York City. And he'd also written at least one, if not two, science fiction novels about space teenage SMEC slave aliens. You know about that crap, Ara? They use taxpayer dollars to play Monopoly. Oh, I know. And all the money for schools, for colleges, and the whole educational system. Trumpster Fire and his empire actually has no money behind it. It's fake. Oh, I totally am with you 100%, Ara. 100%. It's money from investors, etc. Which is why he had to knock down the East Wing, was so then he could say, I'm doing this big project. Everybody give me your money. Annabees, blah. Okay. Money isn't real to them. I know, it's like Monopoly money. And I think all of the money that's been robbed from our country, I think it's all going over to Daddy Vladdy and to Bibi, but mostly to Daddy Vladdy. He owns, like, our president is Daddy Vladdy's bitch. I mean, he's DJT is just his puppet. There is no money. It's debt. Debt is real, not money. It's labor that is real to them, and they need us working. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? Money is an IOU note. Yep. It's crazy. Effing rat bastards from hell. So yeah, this is consistent with your opinion there, Ara. They found a safe containing 48 loose diamonds, 70,000 in cash, 3 passports belonging to E from the US, Israel, and Austria. The last one, which expired, appeared to have a photo of E but included a fake name and listed a home address in Saudi Arabia. This was a man who prepared a getaway plan. On July 8th, Jeffrey Berman, U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, unsealed an indictment alleging that E and his employees brought dozens of vulnerable girls, some as young as 14, to his New York mansion and his Palm Beach home between 2002 and 2005. E stood accused of abusing these girls sexually, paying them money, and asking them to recruit other girls. Noting that this had gone on for years, Berman said that the alleged behavior shocks the conscience. E faced a maximum sentence of 45 years in prison. We are the cows. We are the 99%. everyone could stop working and the rich couldn't travel, wouldn't have drivers, wouldn't have cooks, wouldn't have any people to clean their clothes, wouldn't have anything. They'd all be like the emperor's new clothes. We're fighting a class war finally instead of culture wars. People are waking up. Liberty, justice for all. Well, yeah, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to like take us back to the freaking Stone Ages. Totally. The devil is showing his feathers. Now, Ara, have you been watching the South Park episodes for season 27 and 28? Because they are so freaking spot on. There was one a couple of months ago where the whole theme of it was he's been effing Satan all along. Our president's been effing Satan all along. Oh my God, we're just figuring out that he's been effing Satan all along. And you know, Satan's pregnant with his butt baby. It's effing hilarious and disgusting. The devil is flaunting his power over the physical world now. That's right, Ara. We are cattle to them. And then, you know, all the jokes about Trump's neck and how it looks like a female body part. And now with the Bubba thing, put those two together. And then the whole like deep throat thing from Nixon with Watergate. And now we got the deep throat thing with Donnie. We never left the Stone Ages to Gilded Age of robber barons. The system is Satan. SP is so real. South Park, I love it. And once we stop playing his game, we win. He likes that golfer. Oh my God, Arnie Palmer. The crap that he was saying about Arnie Palmer in that it was on his campaign trail last year when he was like talking about how well hung he was and how he just couldn't stop talking about the man's package. This puts that in a whole new light, does it not? Holy crap, man. Epstein's bail hearing was a week later. I wished I could attend, if only to see E in shackles. Donnie is so friendly. Let me ask you something. Do you still claim him as... No, I've never. No, I've hated him since Jump. Like when he threw his hat in the ring back in like 2015, I was just like, oh, screw him. I was like, as if. And then when he, like, I seriously thought I was going to have to move out of the country in 2016. I made it through the 4 years. I was like, there's no way I can do that again. There's no way he can win. And I don't think he did. I think that it was all hijacked by Musk. There was so much election interference, and all of that, I think, is being proven scientifically now. They never did the regular election hygiene that they were supposed to do in every election. But as soon as it was announced that he won last year, I thought our country's controlled by Daddy Vladdy and Bibi. That was all I could think, is like, there's no way that this could happen. But it did. I've never thought of him as our president. No, I've always thought of him as a MF and nothing but an MF, a piece of crap. May I have the link so I can ask you what I mean? Oh, yeah, what link? I voted for the educated POC woman. May I have the link so I can ask you what I mean? But do you believe he has the power and is president? No, I don't. I think he's a puppet. I think that Vladdy's in control of our country. So what link? May I have the link so I can ask you what I mean? Oh, man. I'm so confused, my dear. Yeah. No, I love your input, dear. To chat with you. Oh, I don't know how to do that, Ara. Dang it. You could call me on the phone, and I'm not even kidding. You'd be more than welcome. I wish I knew how to do that. We could do that on your channel if you still have your channel. I would be happy to. Yeah, call me. Do you have my number? If you don't have it handy, you probably do. You probably still have it in your phone. And I've got my phone right here. Yeah, feel free to call me. I can put it on speakerphone if you want. I'd be more than happy to do that. Um, I agree that Vladdy is running things. I think they stealing from the American people, and now they trying to unalive us all. They, as in the admin Donnie, is old as hell. Yeah. Oh, I'm totally in. I agree with that. That's their plan. I have my phone right here. Oh, all right. I can't text you because I've got a new phone. It's not. You're not in the contact. Um, but how are we gonna do that? Is Anna B's? Do you have Ara's contact? Um, you don't have mine either, my dear. Yeah, we used to have each other's numbers. Let me see. I don't think that. No, he is not totally in charge. In my opinion, people like Miller, etc., doing BS. Um, I know. I would almost just put my number in the chat and then delete it. Yeah, why don't I do that? So anybody who's watching would be able to get it, but that's okay. I'll just do that and then delete it. Um, and let me put little separators in there so you can see it, because there's so many numbers all together. I need to just break it up like that. So I'm gonna put my number up, and well, I'm just gonna do it and then erase it. I could email it to you, or give me your email and I will email. Um, I'm okay with putting it up for a second because there's only 4 people watching. But they won't be able to get it because I'll take it down. So there it is. So the 4 people that are here can have it, and then I'm going to take it right down. Or just let me know that you have it. You got it. Okay, cool. Remove. Yay, we did it. Aren't we so tricky? I know, it was a little ballsy. I normally wouldn't do that, but I'm excited to talk to R and see what's going on. And like I said, there was only 4 of us here, so but you leave this live up, they will see it. No, I don't think so. I think it's down here. Hey girl, can I put you on speaker? Okay. All right. Now, can people hear you okay?
I don't know. I put you on mute on my computer.
Okay. I know. I need to do the thing with like StreamYard. I need a lesson so that I can put a link and have a guest and all that great stuff. So what's up?
I'm good. How are you? I'm really glad that you're still going live and doing things.
Well, in this book, I can't believe I've been reading this book. I emailed the publisher to see if they would grant me permission, and I didn't hear back. I figure they're getting slammed with emails. So, I studied up on the whole thing with copyright, and it's like, if it's educational, if you're putting your own opinion in there, if you're not making money with it.
Right.
But of course, if they ask me to take it down, I will. But people wanted me to read it, and I wanted to read it again to myself anyway. So yeah, then after I read this damn manuscript that I downloaded from the cloud, I was like, even though it's in the cloud and anybody can download it, I know that nobody will. Nobody's going to read it. Even after I downloaded it, I almost didn't read it. I literally had it sitting by my bed for like 3 weeks untouched. And I was just waiting for this book to come out. And I couldn't wait any longer, so then I read it.
Yeah,
But
it's a happy book.
anyway, tell me what's up with your desire to get on the horn and talk about this crap. I know.
You're talking about something that's really interesting because it's like, okay, so the fact that we still give power to these people,
Mm-hmm.
right? The entire reason why America was founded anyway was because we wanted to have our own voice. Not we, not me, right? But the people that founded or wanted to get away from England. Or maybe we were just a byproduct of England. England was just like, we want more land, go and get it, right? Because they unalived everybody when they got here. It's like if we weren't founded on an act of kindness. It's not like British people came here and said, "Oh wow, there's people here. We should probably like try to coexist." No, they said, "Oh, these are animals. Let's just unalive them all."
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the mindset, right? Let's just like, oh, they look different. They don't speak our language, So let's unalive them all. So it just at some point you just start to see that not even British people, right? It was the British Empire that came over first. Didn't even see us as people. People like didn't see Indians, Native Americans as people.
Right.
They just
Right. Well, and I feel like part of that us because I do have a good portion of native blood in me.
That's not you. That's not you. It's the people
Right.
that came over. But
right.
It's just there always has in our species there always has been this disconnect. Right.
Well, and just greed and just like anything in the way, just get it out of the way.
It's not even just greed because look at how these people see children. Or how people see how are we the only species, or are we the only species that sees our own species as just I don't know, it's just really gross how we see each other. Like you see children as sex objects.
Right.
You see people as disposable things.
Right. Well, when our president would refer to Virginia Giuffre as his fucking cowgirl.
Well, you see how you just said our president?
Thank you.
You see, we're just that's why I asked you, do you actually still see this person as a president? You see how people are still mind controlled.
Totally.
This person authority. You just said my president.
I know. Thank you for catching me. I know. I mean, I see him as a clown. I see him as Satan, like you do.
Yeah, I mean, you can judge him, but you still see his position as authority. We have been conditioned to see that
yeah.
chair as president. I do not see him as a president. I will never say our president. I will never say he is just a man that is disgusting, and all his friends are disgusting. And then he is just a person, just like us. He bleeds just like us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I don't see him as human. I see him as.
You just said my president or our president.
Right, but I see him as like Satan. I mean, I think he's the most disgusting piece of crap imaginable.
But the problem is that we're still seeing him in a position of power.
Mm-hmm.
That we still respect the position of power that he sits in. But the only reason why he has that position of power is because the people give him that.
Right.
And we are just so brainwashed to just refer to him and in our minds think of this person as that. Right? So if you were walking down the street, Miss Justice, and you saw Trump walking on the other side of the street, you'd be like, oh, wow, that's the president. Or like, even if you hate him, you'd still acknowledge that he is a person of power.
I'd probably vomit, but yeah. I mean, I definitely see him as a person of power. Unfortunately, I wish I didn't. That's the problem.
Yeah. That's the problem, because even if he is disgusting, that's how deep it is.
Right.
Right. So like if I were to walk past him on the street,
Go with you.
I mean,
Yeah.
what should happen is just to turn the other cheek, right? And then just whatever. But we still, even if we hate him, still give him this position of power. That's the problem. We are all brainwashed.
Yeah, totally.
So it doesn't even matter what they do. Right? Because we can sit here and criticize everything. Oh, FC did this and whatever. Like, bro, there's only like in a house of 4 rich people, there's 30 people that take care of that rich house.
Right. Right.
So those 30 people, we could just do something, right? All like Prince Andrew, you know, that security guard that came out and started talking about Prince Andrew recently?
I don't know about his security guard. No.
Yeah, he just came out and started talking about Virginia, and like he's like, yeah, I've seen Miss Maxwell coming in and out, and then Prince Andrew would be like a big baby and order this and order this that, and then he would have callers coming in the middle of the night that would not adhere to protocol, to security protocol. He would just look out the window and said, "Let her up."
Right.
And so the security guard spoke out finally 10 years later. Well, there are a lot of these people like you and me that control, that we're given a power to, to valet or to who goes in and out. We have all the power. We could have just spoken out, but we're afraid. We're afraid of what?
Right. Right. Well, they disappear people.
Yeah, well, the people that they use to disappear people are still us. If those people that are used to disappear people would also wake up and say, why am I killing other people for someone that doesn't give a shit about me?
Right.
If they would wake up too,
right,
then the 1% would be powerless. See, that's the thing.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
They're alone. The 1% are alone, and that's what frustrates me about this whole situation is that we're sitting around talking about it when everybody saw these things happening. Everybody. And nobody said anything because they're afraid of what? When we all are on the same team. The people that are unalived people, you're still on the same team of the people that are being unalived. No one cares about you. The only people that care about each other are the people Epstein, like these inner circle, like asshole bully people. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and yeah, with all of the ICE crap going on, it's like people don't realize that you don't have to fit into the category of the people that are being targeted now. We're all going to be targeted. Like it's insane,
It's just I don't understand why we are not coming together collectively and saying no.
Right. Well, like the No Kings marches, those have been very cool.
Okay, but the people that are working the security at the White House, the people that are serving food at the White House, the people that are cleaning toilets, everybody.
Yeah.
The only people that you know what I mean. The 1% are a very small class. They're the ones wearing the ball gowns. They're the ones benefiting from us serving them. Us serving them even applies to the valets. The people, the janitors, the people cutting the grass. Like, we control everything, actually. The teachers, just all of us. That's what bothers me, is that we're still sitting here just treating it like it's a soap opera when we could shut it down so fast.
Right. And we have to before it gets to the point of no return, because it's getting closer to that every freaking day with that damn Project 2025 bullshit.
We could control everything. Like the 99% control. We couldn't even, if it were up to us, we couldn't even let people in a building. Like security is us. You know what I mean? We are like my nieces and nephews work security for this or that or whatever. If they just said no, I'm not going to do that, then where's your security?
Right.
Like, we are everything. We are the world.
Yep, I agree. And
so it just bothers me so much that we are still like stagnant, and we just sit here and just make excuses for them, and they're just the most disgusting people in the world. Our children are not for sale, right? That's the slogan.
Right. Yeah, and I'm reading Anna B's and Billy's comments here. The last one, Anna said the ICE stuff is illegal. They will be imprisoned, of course, after a trial, after this regime is gone. It's just, it's going to be such a mass cleanup. I mean, I think the entire administration is going to be imprisoned. All of the henchmen like Pamela Bondi, Cash Patel, Dan Bongino, all these guys are going to be in jail.
The system is what protected all these people that are basically committing crimes against humanity.
Freaking Christy Nome. Oh my God, she's so disgusting. Damn puppy killer.
I don't believe in the system anymore. I'm done with the system.
Mm-hmm.
Because these people have manipulated the system to do what they wanted, so I don't believe in it anymore. I don't believe in the democracy that is now.
Right.
Because when Clinton was running against Trump, she knew all this stuff that was going on and didn't say anything. Like, I'm not okay with being a pawn in their, backroom games.
Well, like Biden called Trump Hitler during the campaign, and then he sat down with Hitler and had tea during the transition. It's like, you don't sit down with Hitler and have tea. Give me a fucking break, man.
Well, that's what I'm saying. The system isn't real anymore, Miss Justice. It's
yeah,
not.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that if the system was protecting pedophiles, then I absolutely will not trust the system anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. And you know what my career is?
Uh-huh.
No, there is no way.
Yep.
Absolutely no way.
I hear ya. Absolutely.
So Trump is not a president to me. Trump is just some rich guy that's sitting in a house where if people really hated him, they could do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like these invisible rules that people are following. That's what's keeping him safe.
Right.
And the people around him are sick.
Uh-huh. Have you been watching South Park? Have you been keeping up with that?
The last South Park that I watched was the one where he was laying in bed with the devil. But the last time they did something like that was with Hussein.
Yeah, I didn't watch the Hussein one. I think they just keep getting better and better each episode.
Well, South Park is now comparing Trump to Saddam Hussein.
Oh yeah. The
only time they showed Trump's face, because
the last one, the most current one, is all about artificial intelligence. That's pretty much. I mean, they just nail it too. They absolutely nail it.
Yeah. Well, did you see or did you hear about how there was this company that was using AI it's a Chinese company that was using AI to do it's like basically it's accounting or something, and then it kind of went rogue and it started to cyber attack companies on its own.
I did not hear about that, but yeah, that's the kind of shit that is like science fiction movies that. Yeah, we got to not let it get anywhere close to that. That's what's
it's already there.
I know, which is so ridiculous, and that's basically what South Park is calling out too. It's like there needs to be limits and laws. I mean, this is ridiculous. It's just like a freaking free for all. And then, Billy's last comment here, crimes against children and crimes against humanity. Every time I hear that phrase, crimes against humanity, I flash back to Scammy talking about the crimes against humanity cards in Kylie's car. Remember that?
I remember that.
At the beginning of her case, the crimes against humanity was a huge part of the story. And I think that everything about Kylie's case is the story. I think it's all fabricated bullshit. But like that crimes against humanity was like a little clue they were trying to put in there just to be cute, because that's how they roll. You know,
like it's so you're trying to connect that, like that phrase.
Well, and again, it was like they were giving a clue that that's what the whole thing was about. Like they weren't out there to have like a going away party for the kids that graduated that were heading off to college. They were out there to have a Kylie Crimes Against Humanity party. I mean, you can hardly call it a party. I mean, it was a ritual, a sacrifice.
In my opinion, like, if you're someone that could really hurt another person, like physically, or like do something that, you know what I mean, for one human being that has a soul that God gave you, right? God gave us souls. That's the one thing that's different than anything else in this world, is the soul that we have, right? Mm-hmm. You have a soul, and it's unique to you, and it was a gift. It was given to you by something greater than we can even explain. And if that soul, like that soul cannot actively do something bad to another soul, because it's like God is not going to, like, it's not going to do that, right? So if there's a human being that is doing something bad like that to another person, I don't think God's soul is in there anymore, or it's obstructed by something else.
I hear you. Absolutely.
It's not humanly possible. There have been many times where I have been tested where it would have been very easy to, you know, like someone has chosen to fight with me or like hit me or trying to do something, and I just cannot. I cannot literally lift up my fist or hurt somebody or do. It's just not possible. You can't do that. And so if there are people that are making our laws that are hurting children, there's just something very evil happening.
Well, yeah, they're terrorists. Excuse me while I scratch my nose, but they're terrorists. Like they don't care about the lives of children, even.
No, well, they're evil. They're basically the devil. They're basically possessed. You know what I mean?
Very, very dark. Absolutely.
It's a very dark thing, and those are the people that we're giving power to. We're like obeying them. Oh, the president said this, well, I guess we have to do it. No, you don't. You don't have to do it. You know, he took SNAP away from people. Open up a food pantry then.
Well, and then when the states said that's okay, we'll take care of the SNAP, then he like put an injunction to like block that. It's just like, oh, but then he's got $40 billion to give to Argentina and all these bonuses to give to all these freaking ice freaks. It's just like
the devil is running our material world. That's what's happening.
Yeah. That great Gatsby freaking Halloween party.
Yeah. The day that SNAP was going to be cut off. Are you joking?
The night before. Yeah. Do you know Paula Poundstone, that comedian?
No.
Oh man, I'll put a link to one of her most recent comic shorts that I think she dropped it today. So she was talking about the Great Gatsby party, and her theory was that maybe some of the people that work for DJT like set him up to look like the biggest jackass in the world, because they knew the story of the Great Gatsby, but he doesn't understand the story of the Great Gatsby, even though that's required reading for all of us Americans in high school. He obviously never read it, never read the footnotes or the cliff notes, because he doesn't know the first thing about it. It's like the whole point of the story is that the people with the money are the enemy, are evil, are ridiculous, are lost. And then he's like, look at us, we're the Great Gatsby. It's just like, dude, yeah, you are. You're absolutely right. You are.
The Great Gatsby didn't know that they were the Great Gatsby until they were called out.
And then like putting that one woman in the jumbo cocktail glass scantily clad, like she's like dancing sitting down, so like you can just, the things that you can see, not only is she in that glass, and so she's up high so you get an even better view, but then the glass was like turning, or she was turning, so you could see everything. And it's like, really, you're gonna do that at this juncture of perversion in the whole scheme of things with these e-files? You're going to have this scantily clad woman. I mean, yeah, she wasn't an underage, but it was still perverted AF. I mean, I was embarrassed to see it on television, and I'm not a prude, you know, but it was so freaking over the top. Like, I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
It was as rude as his freaking pussy neck.
Well, look, we have two options. You know, like that time when Jesus went into the church and he was like, "This is not a place of commerce. The church is not a place of commerce." When Jesus went in and saw that his God's worshiping temple turned into a commerce station, and Jesus got angry. That was the first time he got angry, right? And he started like turning tables and getting upset. But he never hurt anybody, right? So it's we can look at these things and we can be angry at them, but it's also really good to see. It's really good to see these people show their true colors, because then it's for us to decide what we're going to do about it.
Right. Then it's not like it's a conspiracy theory that they're like that. Like, they're making it abundantly clear, like even to their supporters, like they've lost so much of their support.
Well, it's just, thank you for showing me who you are. And at this point, us as people need to decide, what are we going to back?
And Anna B's put up a question a few minutes ago. What happened to the children? And I'm not sure which children you're talking about, Anna B's. Are you talking about like the 20,000 plus kids?
There's too many children that are
well, I mean, Daddy Vladdy admits to having abducted 20 to 30,000 children from Ukraine. And then Melania was trying to have that conversation with him about returning 8 of them to their families. Like, where do you get this number? Like, how on earth did you come up with 8? And how ludicrous. I mean, of course, every single one of them is important, and 8 is better than 0. But what about the other like 30,000? Because there's like 20,000 that are documented abducted in Russia from Ukraine. Think about how many there are that are not documented.
Miss Justice, I need to use the restroom. Is it okay if I call you back, or I stay in the chat?
Yeah, either way. Actually, I was thinking of wrapping up shortly too, because I'm getting hungry. It's like 11:30. I don't think I had dinner yet. And my husband grilled up those burgers, those smash burgers. They smelled so good. So yeah, I love you, darling. Now we have each other's numbers again. Are you still doing your channel? Do you still have your channel?
I mean, it's there, but other things have taken priority in my life at the moment.
So, yeah,
understandable. That I can hang out with you all and we can still talk, and I love that.
Yeah,
that's what matters to me.
Totally awesome. Thank you so much for coming in, and yeah, I need to get schooled in how to be all fancy with splitting my screen with a guest like you.
Thank you for talking to me tonight. I really appreciate it.
All right, dear. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. Okay, take care.
Yes, ma'am. Bye.
All right. And you guys, anybody who got my number, like Anna B's has my number, Billy, you're more than welcome to have my number. I don't know if you took it down. But yeah. And I don't know who else was here that might have seen it, but I just want to say, whoever got it is more than welcome to text me or call me. Like, you don't need to be shy. So please do. I wouldn't have put it up there. I wouldn't have taken the risk if I wasn't comfortable with it. So, yes. Where was I? A Taste of Justice. I think I had started reading a little bit. That was fun, wasn't it? I love all your comments too. it was perverted, especially with all they have done, the supposed illegal children. Which illegal children are you talking about? The ones that were abducted from Ukraine? Talking about the ones taken from here in the US? Oh. Well, like I remember in the first administration of this douchebag, that there were a lot of children separated from parents, and that was hideous. And they were like putting them in those freaking cages. That was so out of control. And yeah, they've probably never been reunited with their families. They're probably, if they're alive, they're probably living in hideous conditions. It's just unreal. I mean, I think it's important for all of us to keep our focus on all of these things. And they do, the regime definitely intentionally, I think, tries to overwhelm all of us with, the whole flooding the zone, this freaking Steve Bannon approach. And the Hawaiian kids, the ones in the Lahaina fire. Absolutely. It's out of control. It's just so gross. These MF and pigs. But I think that we just need to keep our eyes open. We need to keep building community and empowering each other, empowering ourselves, and staying positive and staying focused. Yeah, I think it's absolute bullshit. I love what Ara was saying and what you guys are saying there too. So maybe I should try to get to a good stopping point here. I'm on page 297. So there's like 70 pages left, I think. And yeah. I'm trying to remember where I left off with all of this. I think it was somewhere around here. It was I think the paragraph after the man who'd prepared a getaway plan. On July 8th, Jeffrey Berman, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, unsealed an indictment alleging that he and his employees brought dozens of vulnerable girls, some as young as 14, to his New York mansion and his Palm Beach home between 02 and 05. He stood accused of abusing these girls, sexually paying them money, asking them to recruit other girls. Noting that this had gone on for years, Berman said that the alleged behavior shocks the conscience. He faced a maximum sentence of 45 years in prison. That might be where I left off right there. E's bail hearing was a week later. I wished I could attend, if only to see E in shackles. What a sight that would be. But Brad Edwards assured me that other survivors would be there to represent us all. Courtney Wild, Michelle Licata, Annie Farmer did indeed attend, and the judge let them speak. First Farmer, then Wild, stood up and briefly described how much harm E had done. If nothing else, Wild said, the judge should keep him behind bars for the safety of any other girls. E's attorneys offered to put up hundreds of millions of dollars if only the judge would allow him to post bail and go home. But prosecutors argued that he must remain in custody because he had the means and the motive to flee. A financial disclosure form E was required to fill out after his arrest had listed his net worth as $529,954, including 6 properties, stocks, equities, and $57 million in cash. 3 days later, Judge Richard M. Berman ruled no bail for him. So let me read this footnote real quick. Later, it would become clear, in case anyone doubted it, that when he was arrested, E had likely still been keeping company with minor girls. 2 weeks before E's arrest, the U.S. Marshals had interviewed an air traffic control employee who reported seeing E as recently as November of 2018 disembarking from his jet with girls who appeared to be as young as 11 or 12. November 2018. And there's some of those emails that prove that DJT and E were still tight at that time frame too, of November 2018. Like even the email about Bubba and all that from his brother Mark, that is sometime in 2018, that his brother asked him, how's your boy Donnie, or something like that. I think he called him by his last name. How's your boy? It's like, obviously they were in touch. And then the the defense is to try to say, oh no, E was just obsessed with DJT. It's not that there was any connection. It's just that E was obsessed with him. It's just like, no, I don't think so. Good try. So yeah, maybe I'll try to get to at least 300. I was going to try to get to what was it, like 313 or something like that. 317. I don't know. But yeah, if I is it 317? $320. So I'm at the top of 298, and I want to keep going at least a smidge more. I want to at least get to 300. And again, thanks for anybody who's listening live or on the replay crew. I think this information is really important. The next day, on July 19th, Alex Acosta, whose role in the 2008 non-prosecution agreement was now being viewed more harshly, resigned from Trump's cabinet. 4 days after that, on July 23rd, E was written up for self-mutilation and was put in a self-harming watch cell. I don't even believe that he was self-mutilating. I think that was just part of the cover to lay the foundation for disappearing him or Epsteining him or whatever it is that happened. Just like the freaking school bus crash and maybe the domestic violence that, they just start. It's that chaos agent, that chaos factor, just to start the gaslighting and the confusion. Just throwing the damn spaghetti at the wall, right? But 31 hours later, that assessment was downgraded to something less restrictive, psychological observation, and later still, he was returned to a normal cell. Prison records show that on 2 occasions while in custody, he described himself as a coward and as someone who does not like pain. And he was deathly afraid of DJT. Deathly afraid of DJT. Just like Virginia was deathly afraid of all the people that wanted her silenced, right? On August 9th, 2019, my 36th birthday, a judge made public the first of what would soon be several batches of previously sealed documents in my defamation case against G. This batch, roughly 2,000 pages in all, included excerpts of several depositions, including my own. And these excerpts made clear that in 2016, under oath, I had named not only the former Prince and Jean-Luc Brunel among my abusers, as I had in my 2014 joinder motion, but also Marvin Minsky, the MIT scientist, and Bill Richardson, the former governor of New Mexico, and others. My sworn testimony naming billionaires number 1, 2, and 3 would be made public in various document dumps, and they all denied knowledge of and participation in E's transporting scheme. So I wonder if the former governor, Bill Richardson, the former governor of New Mexico, I wonder if he abused her at the ranch, at Zora Ranch. Siggy and I had a joke. We often told each other if we were frustrated that one of our cases seemed stalled, all we needed to do was send Siggy on vacation. Whenever she tried to take a break with her family, something big would happen. In August 2019, Siggy flew to Africa to take her kids on safari. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised then when on early Sunday morning, Siggy found a satellite phone and called me in Australia. Just hours before, on Saturday, August 10th, guards had entered E's cell inside the high security unit of the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan to bring him breakfast. Instead, they found his lifeless body, a bedsheet tied around his neck. E was dead at the age of 66. Like Satan, right? 666. The news hit me with an almost physical force. I guess I didn't believe someone who'd exerted so much power over me could ever die. I know you're disappointed, Siggy said, and she was right. This wasn't how justice was supposed to work. And with the accused avoiding a reckoning by taking himself out, some might imagine that I'd be happy that E was dead, but I wasn't. Indeed, it would take time for me to realize that I was in mourning. Not because the world had lost a monster, that was a good thing. No, like all of E's victims, I was grieving the death of my ability to hold him accountable for what he had done. As the details came out, nearly everything about E's death seemed fishy. Even Attorney General William Barr would acknowledge he initially had suspicions that E had been murdered. And Donnie had those, he vocalized those same suspicions. They're like the Scooby-Doo people that, that hire the Scooby-Doo team to figure out the crime, and it's the ones that hired that are the criminals always. Yeah. Nice to see you up in the chat again, Ara, my dear. But yeah, that Scooby-Doo ending stuff, just like that guy in Charlie Kirk's case. I can't think of his name. Phil Lyman, that guy. Okay. Phil Lyman. He had met with Charlie Kirk early that morning. He was meeting with Charlie Kirk right before he got pew-pewed. And then he had 3 different versions on that same day about where he was when it happened. Phil Lyman, who had run for governor of Utah and is planning on running for governor of Utah again in 2028, but he ran in 2024, and Phil Lyman's family owns that block, 12 houses on that block that the alleged perp was walking down when somebody's Ring doorbell camera got the security footage of him walking down the street. Not only was that Phil Lyman's aunt's house and her Ring doorbell security cam, Phil Lyman happened to be in that house when that happened. Phil Lyman. Sounds like someone got close to Charlie and pulled a JD and popped him off. Yeah, I think Phil Lyman had something to do with it, for sure. Faux show. Anyway, and yeah, William Barr and DJT, I think, had everything to do with this, either rubbing him out or helping him sneak off. But either way, just stopping the trial, because the trial, all of this stuff that's coming out now would have come out in the trial. And just like it would have come out in the trial back in 07, 06, 07, 08, back during the bullshit sweetheart deal. They're just trying to get everybody to shut the F up, right? Did the Pope move? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Billy Darling. Oh man, and again, our Billy girl, she said some really great things yesterday once again about these effing billionaires. Gotta love her. She walks the walk. Okay. As the details came out, nearly everything about E's death seemed fishy. Even Attorney General William Barr would acknowledge he initially had suspicions that E had been red-rummed. Instead, he concluded otherwise, that E's death was the result of a perfect storm of screw-ups. There was the fact that E had tried to harm himself before and then been taken off of a self-injurious watch, while he'd had his cellmate at some point. And the deal with E's lawyer was that he was never to be left alone because they were afraid of him getting rubbed out. So while he'd had a cellmate at some point on the night of his death, he did not have one. I think that was the only time he didn't have one. 2 prison guards who sat at a desk just 15 feet from E's cell were supposed to check on him every half hour from 10:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. Instead, they napped and browsed the internet, then falsified the logs to say they'd completed their rounds. Security cameras that could have captured E's self-harming behavior, or if conspiracy theorists are to be believed, the actions of whoever red-rummed him, were not functioning. Other cameras that were working showed that no one had entered the area where E was housed on the night he passed. So that seemed to rule out the possibility of an assassin sneaking in. But then his brother hired a forensic pathologist to examine the official autopsy report. That expert, let's see, concluded that the broken bone and cartilage in E's neck pointed to homicide. I can make a case for either self-injury or red rum. This was a man who bragged about his access to power, and this is going to support Ara's theory. This was a man who bragged about his access to power. By this point in his life, he was known to have relationships with not just pretty young girls and brainiac scientists, but also the likes of Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, James Jess Staley, the CEO of Barclays Bank, and Leon Black, the co-founder and CEO of the private equity firm Apollo Global Management. According to court documents, E also knew Google co-founders Sergey Brin and Larry Page well enough to have introduced them to and others to Staley. In addition to his self-described biological need for SMECs, E needed to feel important, and collecting such high profile acquaintances had helped him feed that hunger. Now, being in jail meant having no access to either the young girls he loved to abuse or the powerful men he yearned to rub shoulders with. That certainly could have made him want to end it all. On the other hand, E was the ultimate narcissist. He believed he was superior to others, and I never saw in him a scintilla of self doubt, let alone a desire for self annihilation. He'd always suggested to me that those videotapes he so meticulously collected in the bedrooms and bathrooms of his various houses gave him power over others. He explicitly talked about using me and what I'd been forced to do with certain men as a form of blackmail, so these men would owe him favors. Could it be that someone who feared exposure by E had found a way to exterminate him? I know that the official findings, including an inspector general's report issued in June of 2023, say this is impossible, inconceivable. But I will never be entirely convinced. I'll tell you one thing though. Well, I've read that he was buried in an unmarked grave not far from his parents in Palm Beach, Florida. I don't believe that at all. He had repeatedly told me exactly what would happen when he died. His body would be placed in some sort of cryogenic chamber to be preserved until technology advanced far enough to bring him back to life. That's what he'd always bragged to me. With that satisfied smirk on his face, I know it sounds far fetched, but I wouldn't bet against the notion that he somehow got his way on this. I'm going to reread that. Anna Bees says JD is in bed with Peter Thiel. Absolutely. I think he did off Pope Francis. Peter Thiel is a Putin operative as well as Big E. They are the writers of 2025. So, Anna Bees, my first thought is like, why would they off Pope Francis when he was already barely hanging on by a thread? But to answer my own question, it's all about power and control, right? And cruelty. Cruelty is the point. And just like say face and to yeah. So I'm not sure what you meant by your question, Billy, about did the Pope move? Poisoned. Yeah, totally. Absolutely. I know. I mean, JD, he didn't want to see JD. Like you could see it in his face when JD was approaching him. He was just like, but he was like being an adult and allowing it. And yeah, you can't do that with these scum. Absolutely insane. And the same thing happened to DJT's brother when he was injured because he fell and hurt himself really bad and almost passed away. But then he was in the hospital, and the day after DJT visited him in the hospital, then he passed away. And I think that's why DJT is so scared of falling down the steps, because he was the one who told E, he asked E or told E that he was contemplating pushing Marla Maples down the stairs when she was preggers with Tiffany because he didn't want to deal with it. And E told him that was a terrible idea, that he should never even bring it up again. And then a few years later, his other wife happens to fall down a flight of stairs. Just happens to be the day before those big, huge, scary depositions were to start. And 2 weeks and 2 days after Ghislaine's, her sentencing. I think that's all very relevant. And again, Ivana would be one of the people that would know really how Melania and Donnie met. Everybody who would really know how they met is deceased except Ghislaine. Uh-huh. Sus, sus, sus. Proof he'd do anything for Pete. For Pete Hegseth, I don't know how that ties in, but yeah, this news about Bubba and Donnie confirms my belief that Donnie has the hots for Hegseth. That's why he won't fire him, is because he wants to F him. Okay, there, I said it. Let's see. The blackmail. I got to reread this part. He explicitly talked about using me and what I'd been forced to do with certain men as a form of blackmail so these men would owe him favors. Could it be that someone who feared exposure by E had found a way to exterminate him? I know the official findings, including an Inspector General's report issued June 2023, say this is impossible, but I will never be entirely convinced. I'll tell you one thing though, while I've read that E was buried in an unmarked grave not far from his parents in Palm Beach, Florida, I don't believe that at all. This is creepy, you guys. Are you ready for this? I hope you're sitting down. Peter Thiel. Okay. Ivana knew where the bodies are buried, like literally and figuratively. Just like Diddy, I'll say it. Ooh, totally. Diddy and Donnie too. Do you think they had a thing for each other? But Donnie's so racist, I doubt it. But I don't know. He likes anybody that likes him. And maybe to try to prove to himself that he's not racist by getting in bed with somebody who's not white, right? So you're sitting down, I take it. E had repeatedly told me that exactly what would happen when he passed away. His body would be placed in some sort of cryogenic chamber to be preserved until technology advanced far enough to bring him back to life, which is exactly what the world needs, is a zombie pedo E. That's exactly what we need. I mean, we already have a zombie pedo DJT. Uh-huh. That's what he'd always bragged to me with that satisfied smirk on his face. I know it sounds far-fetched, but I wouldn't bet against the notion that he somehow got his way on this. Investigators would soon discover that on August 8th, 2 days before his passing, E had placed his entire fortune into a trust, the 1953 trust, apparently named for his birth year, in the Virgin Islands. This legal maneuver would be widely interpreted as E's final thumbing his nose at those who'd survived his predation, because it made it much more difficult for his victims to get restitution. Even after his passing, E seemed to be asserting control. It was oddly heartening, therefore, when another photo emerged in the public realm that refocused the narrative not on E's maneuvering, but on his perversity. Taken by a party photographer in 01, the image is ostensibly of Naomi Campbell. The lens zeroes in on her in a black leather bikini and mesh black wrap, arriving at her 31st birthday bash on that yacht I've told you about in St. Tropez. But despite her undeniable beauty, the supermodel wasn't the reason this photo ran in the New York Post on August 13th, 2019, 3 days after E's death. I was. J.E.'s Smeck slave, seen at Naomi Campbell's birthday party in 2001, blared the headline atop the photo, which had also appeared a day earlier in England's Daily Mail. It's midnight. We're going to turn into pumpkins. Um, yeah, we're almost at 4 hours. I was going to just finish up a couple more paragraphs and then leave off on page 303. That's a good number for numerology, right? And with that, a single image reminded the world just how childlike the girls in E's world were required to look. I'm caught in the foreground, clearly by accident, an awkward smile on my face, my long blonde hair falling down my back. I'm looking away, and my pink sleeveless top reveals a slender arm and bare shoulder. I'm 17 years old, and right next to me, partially obscured with only her dark hair and a sliver of her cheek visible, is G. Later, I would meet a fellow E survivor who would tell me this photograph was the reason she had broken her silence and come forward with her own story. This photo said something 1,000 words couldn't, she said. Everyone knew that was a child, and by that, she meant me. So I am excited to read the rest of this. We have exactly 64 pages, which I think we can tackle tomorrow night, maybe around the same time, starting around 8 o'clock and going till about midnight. What do you guys think? Is that a good time, or is there a better time? Yeah, I think we'll just go with that. Thanks, you guys, so much for being here and being a part of the chat and being a part, if you're not in the chat. And if you're on the replay crew, you're a part of it too. I know a lot of people won't be listening to a nearly 4-hour video of somebody reading a book, but you know, some people are into it, and it's, you know, I'm doing it for me and I'm doing it for you. And I appreciate you guys requesting it because, as I've told you a bunch of times, I was really wanting to read it a second time. And reading it out loud is even better because it just sinks in on a different level than when you're reading it quietly to yourself. It's much more intense for me when I'm reading out loud. It's like more real, all of it. So good night, my darling. I hope you get a good night's rest and rejuvenation. I'm going to go eat a smash burger, take the wax off my teeth, do the water pick, eat a burger, and then put the wax back on because, man, it just hurts so much. I almost called the orthodontist today to have an emergency tune-up. I'm trying to make it till Monday. I'm like, unless there's like a piece of metal like cutting inside of my mouth, like literally that I can't cover with the wax, I don't want to bug him on the weekend. And I hate appointments too. It bugs me to throw a monkey wrench in my day like that. So anyway, drink your water, eat your protein, chillax, love you, and see you soon. Thank you for watching and listening.